So over here on my screen, as you guys can see, this is basically the home page of the Adobe After Effects. And if you take a look around over here on the left top corner, you do have this particular logo. If you guys are familiar with any other Adobe software, you guys might be familiar with this kind of logo. Okay, not the exact thing, but this type, as this is a product by Adobe itself. So Adobe logos are quite the same. So let's come here and let's say you want to create up a new project. Okay, so there are multiple options over here. From here, if you just click once, you will be able to create up a new project. And let's say you did have work on any project, you do have saved that project into your cloud account or into your PC. In that case, you guys can click on open project and it will basically redirect it into your page. Okay, and from here also, you guys can click on a new file. If you want to animate any kind of composition, you guys can come here. If you want to open up a new file, you guys can come here and open up a new file from here as well. Okay. And let's say you guys are working on a project as a team. And from here, you want to open up a new team project where you do want to add different members and all, invite them into your work. You guys can also do that right over from here itself. If you do want to open up a new project, you guys can come here and you guys can open up a new project, like open up a project which you have worked before. You guys can open that up. And on top also, you do have different options here. You guys can see file, edit, composition, layer, effects, animation, view, window, and help. Okay. So these are a few of the options in our menu bar. Okay. On top, this is basically called the menu bar. And from here also, you guys can come here, click on new, and you guys can create up a new project. Okay. So the shortcut key for that is Control plus Alt plus N from your keyboard. Otherwise, if you are using a Mac, it's Command plus Option plus N from your keyboard as well. So let's start. Let's come here and let's try to create up a new project. Okay. So once you click over here on new project, you guys can see you will have basically a workspace quite like this. So now let's try to understand the difference between a project and a composition. So well, composition is basically pages. Okay. Let's say you can have multiple pages in a project, but you can't have multiple project in one page. Okay. So in After Effects, we do call it composition. Okay. So in one project, you guys can have multiple composition. So here, if you guys can see now, I can add multiple composition right from here. Okay. This is the import place where you will have all of your composition. This is basically the timeline. And this is the view panel. And on top here, you guys can see that I do have different kind of tools, different options. And over here, I do have my properties panel. Okay. So first thing first, if you do want to create up any kind of new composition, there are different ways of how you will be able to do that. Okay. So if you come here into this project panel, from the project panel, you guys can come here and here you guys can click on to this particular icon, clicking on create a new project. And once you click on that, you will have this particular window popping up on your screen. Okay, so let me cancel this one. Then also by clicking on new composition, you will have the same composition settings right from here. And before that, I hope you guys now are clear that what is the difference between a composition and a project. Okay, so you can't have multiple projects at the same time, but in a project, you guys can basically have multiple composition. Okay, so first thing, let's come here, let's go to file, and from file you guys won't be able to create up a new composition because just beside edit I do have a composition option itself. And here you guys can see the shortcut key for creating a new composition is Control plus N from your keyboard. So if I just click on new composition here, you guys can see I do have this particular option right over here. So now if I do want to name this one, so I will just set this name, let's say workspace. Okay, so I will just name this one as workspace. And once you have named this one, otherwise by default, it will be saved as comp1, comp2, and so on. Okay, so here, these are few of the basic options. And here you guys can see the first thing is preset. Okay, so if you come over here, you guys can see that I do have a lot of presets over here. You guys can see I do have the HD size, and it is different because this one is 25 frames per second, and also here it is 29.97 frames per second, which is around 30 frames per second. So if you don't know what frames per second is, as we are working with video file and we are working with motion graphics, in that case, what happens is once you play a video, you can see people are moving. Basically, in 1 second, you are viewing multiple frames, okay? And it moves so fast that it actually shows you that that particular thing is basically moving. So that is how the cameras and all actually record your video. It takes multiple images or multiple frames and shows you in an interval. Let's say in 1 second you do have 35 or 60 frames. Okay, so in that case it basically works like that. Then you guys can come here and you guys can choose what kind of preset are you looking for. So for now, let's say I want to take 1920 into 1080 but with 25 frames per second. And once I've done that, you guys can see basically I will be able to do it manually as well. Okay, if you just hover your mouse on top of the width and the height, you guys can see that you do have a slider. Okay, and you guys can basically slide things up, and the full form of px is basically pixels. Okay, if you guys don't know. And if you come here, if you do want to delete this one, you guys can come here and you guys can delete this one. And they're asking that, are you sure you want to delete the current preset which you already have? Okay, so if I do delete it, then I need to restore the factory presets. Okay, so I won't delete it because I will be using that just to show you guys. And also here you guys can see, if you do want to lock the aspect ratio, now the aspect ratio is 6:9. If I do want to lock it, I need to make sure that I tick this one up, and now my aspect ratio is being locked. And here you guys can see I do have the pixel aspect ratio where I have chose square pixels. Okay, so there are different options here. You guys can see anamorphic. Here you do have D1, DV, NTSC. Okay, so for me, I will just select the square pixels. Here you guys can see I do have the frame rate. If I do want to change the frame rates manually, I can change the frame rates manually as well. And also over here, I will be able to select what is going to be the resolution of the image which I take. Okay, so you guys can come here and you guys can basically check what is going to be the resolution. Are you looking to get a half resolution? Are you looking for full? And also underneath here, you guys can see, let's say you are creating a composition and also at the same time, you want to preview your composition. Okay, so you guys can come here and turn on this preview option. And if it's the start code over here, start time code, you guys can see and you guys can choose that from what time you are going to select this time. Okay, from where you want it to start. Let's say you want it to start from 2 seconds, then come here as this first two thing is millisecond, this is second, this one is minutes, and over here lastly you do have the hours. Okay, so once we are working in After Effects, make sure you work with small timeline. Okay, let's say somewhat around 10-15 seconds. Okay, and we will divide and work, which will give me a better outcome. Okay, so let's come here into the duration option, and from here let's say I want to have a 15 seconds timeline. And also I can basically choose what kind of background am I looking for in my composition. Let's say I want to take this particular color. And if I just click on OK, and once I'm done here, you guys can see the pale red option. And let's say if you do have other options over here, other elements, if you want to use this eyedropper, you guys can take this eyedropper and pick out that particular color, and you will have that particular color over here. Okay, so let's go to color option. Let's take this color. Let's click on OK. Then once you're done, you guys just click on OK over here. And here, as you guys can see, I do have my composition right here over on my screen. Okay, so this is basically the composition or the stream in which you are going to work. Okay, so here you guys can see that how you will be able to understand, is this a composition or not? This is the logo, which you guys will be able to see if you do have a composition over here. And also you guys can see that what is the information of this one. Let's say it is 1920 into 1080. The duration is 15 seconds and 25 frames per second. here in the timeline, you guys can see I do have the timeline here of only 15 seconds. Okay. So now let's come right over here. If you do want to see more information over here, you guys can just hold this one and you guys can drag and see the information of this particular thing as well. Okay. So if you do want to import anything, you guys just need to right click over here. If you do want to create new composition, you guys can create a new composition. If you have multiple composition and if you want to put those things into a new folder, you guys can create up a new folder as well. If you want to bring any Photoshop file which you have worked on, you guys can do that. And this is the new option, new Max on Cinema 4D file. If you do have, you guys can bring that here as well. So if you come here on import option, you guys can see that you do have a lot of options as well. Okay. So the first thing, if you do want to import any file, you guys can import any single file over here. And if you want to have multiple files, you guys can see you do have the option for multiple files as well. If you do have any files in your libraries, or if you want to import any project from your Premiere Pro, you guys can also do that over here. Okay, so let's click on import. Let's click on file. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my desktop. And from here, I will go to my resource file and let's take this one, and I want to import this particular video which I have. Let's click on import, and here you guys can see the selected item has imported. Okay, if I do want to see the information of this particular video, I can come here, I can just go on the right hand side and check out all the information. What is the frame rate? What is the type of the file? What is the in point and the out point? Like when is the video starting, when the video is ending? We do have all of these options. Okay. So here in the project panel, you guys can see underneath, you do have this interpret footage option. You do have this creating a new folder option as well. So After Effects is made in such a way that you can actually have different options over here to work in one single thing. And also over here, you do have different kind of workspaces. Let's say if you come here into window, let's go to workspace. Now here you guys can see I am here in my default workspace. Okay. And let's say I am working with color or I'm working with animation. I can directly go onto this particular animation option. And here you guys will be able to see that I will have multiple option right over here itself. Again, let's go to Windows. Let's go to Workspace. And over here, let's come to Effects. And here you guys can see now I do have this different option or this different workspace which I was working on. Let's go to Windows again. Let's go to Workspace and let's select the default workspace over here again. And let's say you want to have a new workspace in which you want to work on. So from Windows, let's say I want my libraries or I want my media browser in my screen as well. So if I do want to add it, I can come here and I can just I can just click onto character. Here you guys can see I do have this workspace. And if I do want to save it, let's go to Window. Let's go to Workspace. And here you guys can see save as a new workspace option. Okay, so if I just click on save as new workspace, I can come here and I can name this one from here as well. Let's say character page. Character page over here. And now once I'm done, I can just click on OK. And here you guys can see now if I go to my Windows, let's go to my workspace. Here you guys can see I do have a new workspace known as the character page. So this is how you guys can actually work on over here. If you come onto this particular preview panel using Control or Command minus, you guys can zoom in. And if you just click on Control plus, you can zoom in. And if you click on Control minus, you guys can zoom out as well. Okay. And if you want to come here, if you do want to decrease the resolution down, you guys can come here and let's say I will just go on with quarter and you guys can come here and view it as well. Okay. So let's say now I have created this particular composition, but over here I do have this background. Now what I want to do is if I do want to change the timing, okay, as I do have a 15-second composition over here, I want to make it 8 seconds. Okay. So for that, again, I need to make sure that I'm selecting the composition, and over here, let's go to the composition option. And after that, from here, I will go to this composition settings. So once I'm over here, let's come to this particular option. And from here, let's click on 8. And now I will just click on OK. And now if you take a look here, you guys can see the timeline over here is of only 8 seconds. Okay. So go to this composition option again, composition settings. You guys can actually change the frame rate, the resolution, and also the background color. Let's say now I want to take up a different background color. Let's come here and let's click on to this particular color over here. You guys can see using the eyedropper tool, I can select things out and let's go to this option. Let's come here. Let's give this one up this particular color. Let's go with something faded. And now if I just click on OK here, you guys can see I do have this preview option. So once I'm done, I'll click on OK. Let's go to this option. Let's click on fit. Here you guys can now see the edges of my composition as well. Okay. So I hope you guys to have gotten basic idea about how you will be able to create up a composition and how you will be able to change the setting of a composition. Now let's move on that I want to create a composition from this video itself. Okay. So there are different ways to do that. So once you come here, let's click on the video using which you want to make a composition with the same settings which you already have over here. Let's check the settings. Here you guys can see the frame rate is 23.976, which is around 24 frames per second. You guys can see what is going to be the duration or the out point, which is 25 seconds, which I can actually change later. And also you guys can see what is going to be the video resolution. So first thing, what you're going to do is you guys can right click and there is this particular option known as new comp from selection. Okay, so using this one, you guys can come here and you guys can make a new composition out of this particular selection itself. Otherwise, let's select this one. Let's go to composition and also if you do want to undo the composition settings, you guys can also do that right from here itself. Okay. And if you come here, let's click on this. And if you just drag and drop here into the composition, you guys can create a new composition out of selection as well. Okay. So there are different ways. Right click. Let's click on new comp from selection. And here you guys can see I do have created a new composition of the selection. And here in my timeline also, you guys can see I do have this particular video. If I just drag this one down here, you guys can see I do have the transformation option. And also about transformation, we'll be learning about in detail. So if you do want to rename it, just right click on your mouse. Let's go to rename and let's rename this one as animation. Okay, because I'll be doing some basic animation with some text over here. So I have written animation over here. Let's click outside to save this thing up. Let's right click. And if you want to change the composition settings right now, you guys can go to this composition settings. Let's click over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just change the duration as this one is now of 25 seconds. I will come here and I will just decrease its size down. Okay. So let's say I will make it for 10 seconds and I will just click on OK right over here. Okay, so as you guys can see, I do have this animation and let's click on my space bar to play this thing around. And here you guys can see the timeline over here have decreased as well. Okay, so now this is a video of 10 seconds. So now let's just pause it up. Let's move my playhead at the beginning as well. And also over here, if you just take up a look just beside or just underneath my project panel, you guys can see that I do have two different options as I do have two different composition over here. Okay, so if I do want to go on back to the first workspace or the first composition, I guess I can come here and go to this composition as well. Otherwise, if I want to work in this composition, I can come here and I can work in this particular composition right over here as well. And if you just come to this video option, if you right click, if you do want to name it, you guys can just rename and let's click or let's rename this one as animation. Okay, so let's type animation over here. Let's name this particular layer. And yeah, I hope you guys have got up and basic idea about how you will start working in After Effects, what is the usage of composition, how you will be able to change up the composition over here. I have already taught you about Windows, how to create a a composition from selection, the difference between a project and a composition. And also, I have taught you guys that how you will export or like how you will import your video as well, put up your work in this particular layer. Okay, so also here, if you guys take up a look on top, you guys do have the workspace option over here itself. Okay, so now you don't have to go to your windows for changing the workspace, because over here only you guys can see that you do have multiple workspace which you guys can basically choose from. So here in this particular workspace only, I'll be showing you guys about text animation in the next chapter. So I hope to see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone. So over here on my screen, as you guys can see, this is the same workspace in which we were working, and this is the animation option. And let's say we are going to learn about text animation over here. Okay, so to do the text animation, the first thing what you need to do is, if I do have this particular selection tool selected by default, which you will mostly use, what you need to do is you need to come here into this toolbar on top, and from here you need to select this type tool. Okay, and the shortcut key for this particular type tool is Control plus T from your keyboard. And if you are using a Mac, in that case, it's Command plus T from your keyboard. Okay, so once you work on a particular software for a longer time, then the shortcut keys are quite handy because you will be able to remember, and it's quite efficient to work with the shortcut keys. So you guys can select this one, and there are two options as well. So here you guys can see this is basically the horizontal type tool. Okay, if you do want to type things horizontally, you guys can select this one. Otherwise, if you just left click on your mouse, you guys can see you do have this particular option known as the vertical type tool. Okay, so if you select the vertical type tool, and if you type in your keyboard, you will be able to type vertically. Let's go to the horizontal type tool right over here. And if you just click over here once, you guys can see that you do have this particular thing right over here, and make sure to select that particular animation or that particular composition in which you are going to work. And once you click on that particular animation, let's come right over here into this particular option. Okay, and you guys can start working over here as well. Okay, so let's say I did take out this layer, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come here and I'm going to work on with this particular text. Okay, so now if I do want to type something, I can come here and I can just type that thing down as well. Let's come here, and over here, let's think what I'm going to type. Let's type over here Adobe. Okay, so here you guys can see I do have written Adobe. And now if I take my selection tool, I can actually work with this thing around. Okay, otherwise, there is another option how you will be able to work on with the character over here. That is this character option in your properties panel. Okay, and if you don't see this particular character option on the right side of your screen, what you need to do is you need to go to the Windows in your menu bar. And from Windows, make sure that you do have this character option tick mark. Okay, so once you have this tick mark here, you guys can see that you do have a lot of option right over here. Okay, so the first thing is you will be able to select what kind of font you're going to use. Here you guys can see that over here I do have multiple fonts. So let's come over here. Let's turn off the caps. Okay, and I do have selected this particular thing. And over here also I will be able to choose what is going to be the fill color of the text which I'm working on. Okay, so let's come here. If you do want to increase it, here you guys can see this is the option where I will be able to change the font size. Okay, so you guys can just drag this and check this out from here as well. Otherwise, if you do want to drag it up, you guys can come here and you guys can drag this thing out as well. Okay, let's go with 230. Okay, and now once you have done this thing, you guys, if let's say you do have two sentences, okay, so here you guys can actually change the leading as well, the spacing between both the lines. And also, if you do want to put any kind of kerning between two characters, you guys can come here. Let's take my type tool and I can actually add up a kerning over here. Okay, so here you guys can see that is basically the spacing between two characters. And also this is called the tracking for the selected characters. If I want to work on with the tracking option, I can actually have it right over here as well. Okay. So over here, let's say if I don't want to put up any stroke, I can come here and I can actually use stroke as well. Okay, so I can come here and I can choose what is going to be the width and what is going to be the color of my stroke as I'm working with this one. Let's go to fill color first and let's fill this one with this particular color. Let's click on OK right now. So for that, let's select this whole thing out. Let's go to fill. And from here, let's take out this particular color. Let's click on OK. And again, I will just turn on my stroke. And now what I can do is I can select what is going to be the stroke like. So let's say I want to add up a stroke of 4. And after that, if I do want to stroke over fill or do I want to fill over stroke, okay, I can come here and I can just put that as well. And here you guys can see if I do have any line joint, I can select how it's going to be. So let's come here, let's take stroke over fill, okay. And now if I just click outside, okay, let's say I will just click outside somewhere. Here you guys can see this is how it actually looks. Okay, so again, what I'm going to do is I am going to select this thing up and in the character option, if I click on more, you guys can see I do have more options as well. Okay, here you guys can see if I do want to vertically scale, I can come here and I can basically vertically scale my thing around. And if I want to come here, if I do want to change it from here as well, I can come here and change it over here as well. So here, any particular word which you have over here, if you want to select it, and if you want to change the baseline of that particular word, you guys will be able to do that from here itself. Let's come here, let's put it to 0. And over here, you guys can see that here you do have Subi for selected characters. Okay, if you do want to add this one, here you guys can see it is actually increasing and decreasing the spacing between the letters. So I will come here, let me just put it up to 0 the way it was. And also under character options, you do have the option of all caps. If you want to use any kind of superscript while you're writing any like 9 powered by 9. Let me just show you guys an example using which you guys will be able to understand it in a better way. So if I come here and let's say I will just write 9 and 9. Okay. But now what I'll do is I will just select this thing. And from here now, let's say I want to put this one as 9 powered by 9. Okay. So this is how it actually works. Let's click on backspace over here. And now let me show you guys about superscript. Okay, over here you guys can see here you do have the subscript over here. Let's type H2O. Okay, so once I've typed H2O, as I want to give it up this particular number here down, I can come here. Let's select 2. And what I can do is I can come here and I will just put this one as the subscript. Okay, so here this is how it actually look. If you want to put ligatures or it is any kind of in the digits, okay, you guys can come here and change it from here itself. Okay, so once I'm done, I will select this whole thing. Let's click on delete, and this is basically being deleted. Let's click here, selection tool, and what I'm going to do is I am going to take out this empty text layer. Let's delete this one. And now let's move this thing around. Okay, so if you do want to centralize it, there is another option known as the alignment option. So for that, here you guys can see in my properties panel, I do have this align option. And if you don't see it, okay, what you can do is you guys can come here into your windows and click on this align option. And here you guys can see they're asking that how you do want to align, like align layers to the composition. Okay, so I will just select composition and where do I want to align it? Okay, so I will come here, I will align it horizontally and also I will align it vertically as this is here in the center of my page. Okay, so once I am happy with the alignment, let's select outside. And what I'm going to do is I am going to move this one outside the screen. What I want it to do is I want it to come directly right over here on my screen, then just move here on top. Okay, so for that, the first thing what I need to do is I need to understand about the option or the layer transformation option. Okay, so for that, you guys need to come here into your layers panel. And if you just right click here, you guys can see under text option, you guys do have the transform option. And let me just increase the size as I can show you guys in a better way. Here on the transform, you guys can see you do have this anchor point option. You do have positioning. If you do want to scale things up, you guys can scale this thing up as well. Here you do have rotation. If you want to give or change opacity, you guys can also do that. Okay. So let's try to do some basic animation first. So here, just beside you guys can see there you do have a time or this stopwatch like structure. Those are called toggle animation, like how you will be able to on. Okay, so this is how you guys will be able to put out keyframes. Okay, so if I come here, if I do want to move this thing up, I can come here, and if I move here, you guys can see there is a change in my position as well. Okay, over here, if I move this one, there you guys can see the value keeps on changing. Okay, so again, if I come here, let's go to the align option, align over here, align vertically as well. Now again, I am back here at the center. And now let's say I want to move it in a straight line outside. So for that, if I just click on shift, and now if I try to move this thing, let's say I will come here, let's click on position. And now if I just click on shift, I will be able to move this thing out as well. Okay, so let's come here, let's turn on this one. And now I will just try to move this one just outside here in the same line. And here, as you guys can see, I do have added this particular thing right over here. Again, I will just go to position. Let's turn on this keyframe. And here you guys can see this is basically called the keyframe right over here. Now, again, I will just select this one. Let's click on shift. Okay, so let's select this. Let's click on shift to move this thing around. Okay, so I will come here and I will just move this thing around over here. And what I'll do is I will just place it right over here again. Okay, so this is going to be the starting frame. And what I'll do is after, let's say 2 seconds, okay, I want it to reappear on the screen. Okay, so for that, what I can do is there are different ways. If I come here, if I do change the values, I can directly change the values. Otherwise, let's come here, let's select this one, and let's move this thing up. Okay, so let's come here. And now over here, you guys can see that I will be able to move my things around. Let's click on shift. And here you guys can see I am able to move it on a straight line. Okay, so this is the animation right over here, which I have. And if I just go back and now if I just click here, this is how it will basically appear on the screen. And I want it to stay there for a while. And again, what I'll do is I will just come here in this 8-second mark. Okay, so I will come here into this 8-second mark exactly. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another keyframe. Okay, so if I come here and let's say if I just directly move the position from here. Okay, let's say if I just come here and if I just move the position from here, it doesn't look that great. Okay, so for that, again, what I'm going to do is I am going to come here and let's say I will just go back. And let's come here. Let's just add up an keyframe over here as well. Let's click this one. Let's move it. Let's click on shift for a straighter line. And once I'm over here in the center, what I'm going to do is I am going to come here into this 8 seconds mark. And I will just put out another keyframe. Okay. So for that, again, what I need to do is you need to come here, click on add keyframe. And lastly, I will just come to this particular part and I will just add another keyframe once I move this one down. Okay, so I will just select this one. Let's click on shift that I can move it straight down. And yeah, this is how it actually looks. So for that, now let's just play this thing up and let's see how it actually looks, how it appears on the screen. So as you guys can see, it will come here and it will stay there for some time. And now again, it will just go directly down. Okay, so here it was being played in a loop. But yeah, I hope you guys do have got a basic idea how you will be able to do text animation over here. Okay, so in our next class, I will be showing you guys how you will be able to ease in. Okay, let's say how you will be able to put out more life into your text animation. Okay, so I hope to see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye, everyone.
So over here, as you guys can see that I'm here in the workspace in which we were working in our last class. So if I just play this thing around, this is the text animation, which I have showed you guys how you can create. In my last class, we have understood about all the options in the character panel. But now, as you guys can see, that it doesn't look that great, okay? It doesn't have life. It seems like that. So there are a few options which I'll ease which I will use over here, which is in, is out, is in and out. Okay, I'll be showing you guys how each and every options over here basically work. So let's get started. So the first thing, what you're going to do is, let's come over here. Let's select this thing. Let's take this text layer. And what you're going to do is, the first thing is you are going to come right over here. Let's move my playhead at the starting. And if it was SEO keyframe, let's come here. Let's check out my keyframe. And individually, I can select my keyframe right over here. Okay. And if I just right click, here you guys can see I do have various options over here. Okay. So the first thing what you guys can do is you guys can go to your keyframe assistant, and under keyframe assistant here you guys can see you do have the option of easy ease. Here you do have this option of easy ease in, and here you do have another option known as the easy ease out. Okay, so I'm going to take out the first one, which is easy ease, and nothing basically have changed but the logo over here from this diamond shape has turned into this cylindrical shape. Okay, so now if I come here, if I just place this sticker on, here you guys can see this is how it actually works once you applied the easy ease option. Okay, and again, the same way what you guys can do is right click onto this keyframe, go to keyframe assistant, and let's click easy ease. Okay, so I do have applied easy ease over here. And if I play it over here, you guys can see it looks quite better. Okay, so here you guys can see with the speed it appears on the screen, and slowly it just stables up here into this particular center. Okay, it gives more life to the movement of my text. Okay, so once I have done, what I can also do is I can just select multiple keyframes at the same time. Let's right click. Then from here, you guys can go to keyframe assistant, and you guys can select this other option known as easy ease in. Okay, so let's come here. Let's just play this thing up. Here you guys can see I do have the easy ease option. And here you guys can see I do have the easy ease in option as well. Okay, and here I do have this icon different from the ones which I had selected. Let's come here. Let's take this keyframe. If you right click, you guys can see you guys can change it anytime as well. So you guys can play around with all of these options over here. And also you guys can see what are the shortcut keys for this keyframe assistant as well. Okay. So here, if I want to make it more realistic, if I want it to look more better, in that case, I can actually use some motion blur as well. Okay, so I hope this was clear about how you will be able to use the ease option, how you will be able to use the ease out option. So let's come here and let's take this first one. And if I do want to add motion blur over here on my animation, so first thing what I need to do is I need to come here onto this timeline option where I do have all of these layers. Then from top, I can come here, I can enable my motion blur globally. Okay, let's say sometimes what happens is you do have multiple composition and you want to on motion blur in all of it. So for the first thing, you guys can come here and turn on the motion blur globally. And now if I just come here and if I just play, here you guys can see there is not much of a difference over here. Okay, so as you guys can see, there is not much of a difference. But the same way, if I come here, let's just place it over here. And let's move my keyframe onto this particular place. Okay, let's decrease the spacing over here. And the same way, I will just decrease the spacing over here as well. Okay, so let's come here, let's decrease the spacing. And here you guys can see, I do have added the motion blur. And individually, if I want to add it, I can come here into this text option, and on top here you guys can see I do have this motion blur option, which I will just enable right from here. And if I turn it on, here you guys can see how the motion blur basically works. Okay, so it just gives life to your animation over here. Let it stay here for some time and let's see how it basically disappears as well. Okay, so here you guys can see it again. If I do want to use the ease eat option, let's go to keyframe assistant. Let's use easy ease, which I basically used a lot of the times. Okay, so if you do want to move it somewhere over here, you guys can come here and move it somewhere over here as well. Okay, so this was about motion blur. And the same way you guys will be able to add keyframe assistant, keyframe velocity as well. So once I've over here the keyframe velocity, let's click on keyframe velocity. And what I can do is I can change the incoming velocity and also I can change the outgoing velocity as well. Okay. So now over here into this particular window, I will come onto this incoming velocity option. And here you guys can see the influence is only 33%. If I want some smooth animation, let's put it somewhere 80 over here and 80 over here as well. Okay. And once I'm done, let's click on OK. Then now if I just play this thing now, let's come here. Let's play this. And here you guys can see the animation looks better. So the same way, right click over here. Let's cancel this thing up. Let's right click. Let's go to keyframe velocity. And over here, let's put this one as 75 and 75 over here as well. Okay. And now let's click on OK. And let's see how this motion blur actually works. And here you guys can see now it is quite smooth. And the same way, I will select both of it, right click, go to keyframe velocity. And over here, let's put 70. Okay, so I will put 70 over here and 70 over here as well. So I will just click on OK. Now let's play this thing up. Here you guys can see the motion blur looks better. And over here you guys can see it will just go quite like this. Let's come here. Let's just move one keyframe. Okay, let's come here. Let's see. And let's play this thing up. And this is how it will just disappear. Okay. So yeah, I hope you guys to have understood that how you will be able to add motion blur and easing options in your composition or into your animation. Okay. So yeah, I hope to see you all in the next chapter where I'll be showing you guys how you will be able to export your file. Okay. So before that, let's come here. Let's save this file. Let's click on Control S. If I'd want to save this working file, let's click Control S. And once I click on Control S, if I didn't have saved this file, I will go to my desktop and from there, and from here, let's select which is the folder. Do I want to save up my file? Let's come here. Let's double click. Let's select the file name. Okay, so let me save this one as text animation. So I will save this one as text animation. Let's select this particular folder. Let's click on save. And here it will be saved as an After Effects file. Okay, so over here, if you do want to save it as a template, you guys can also do that. But I want to re-edit it later. So for that, I will save it as an After Effects project. Okay, so I have already told you guys about project and a composition, how those things are quite different from each other. And once you do have saved it, you guys will be able to view this one. Let's go to my file. Let's go to my desktop. And if I come here in my resource file, you guys can see that I do have this AEP file over here, which I can actually turn on and work on that as well. So I will close this thing down and see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone.
So over here on my screen, as you guys can see, now I'm here in the home page or the workspace of After Effects. So the first thing what you're going to do is you are going to create up a composition. So for that, let's go to my menu bar. Let's go to composition. And from here, let's click on new comp. And I will just name this one as comp 1. I need to make sure my preset is 1920 into 1080 and the duration of 10 sec is fine. And let's click on OK right over here. Okay, so once I'm done, let's import other files as well. Let's go to import. Let's go to file. Now I will come here into my desktop, and what I'm going to do is I am going to go here, like let's to my desktop. Let's come here, and over here you guys can see I do have these files. Okay, this Illustrator files which I do have created. Let's import this first one, and also again let's come right over here and let's import again. Okay, so I will just come here. I will right click. Let's go to import. Let's go to file, and I am going to actually get the second line as well. So let's click on import, and over here I do have imported this one as well. Okay, so if you come right over here, as you guys can see that now as I do have this particular file over here on my screen, let's come here, let's place it over down here. Okay, so as you guys can see, this is the size which is matching. And once you're creating this file in your Illustrator, make sure that this file over here is basically a 1920 into 1080 size. Okay, make sure that you keep the size and the size is okay over here. And also if you do want to create up any line, you guys can come here and you guys can actually create this line as well. Okay, so if you just double click here, you guys can see as this one is imported as a footage, I will come here, I will just select this whole thing up, and again I need to make out a line. Okay, so you guys can come here and let me show you guys in Illustrator itself how it's done. So from here, let's go to my Illustrator. Okay, so I have also created this particular thing in Illustrator itself. Okay, so like once you're working with After Effects, if you guys do know about Illustrator, or else like if you do have a little bit of basic knowledge about what Illustrator is, how it actually works, it is quite helpful. Okay, guys. So let's come here, and this is the infographic here you guys can see, which I do have created. So if you do want to create up a new file, you guys can come here. Make sure once you're working in Illustrator, the width is 1920 and the height is 1080 pixels. Okay, I will just keep my orientation as landscape, and the unit is in pixels. Let's click on create. Okay, so let's come over here. Let's create this particular page. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to come here. I'm going to take my pen tool, and using my pen tool, I am going to create some lines over here. Okay, so let's say I will just come here. I will just create some lines. Okay, so now let's come right over here. Let's create some random lines. Okay, I don't have to be exact. Let's come here. Let's take out some random points. And once I'm done, I will just click on escape. And using my selection tool, I will just select this whole thing. Let's go down, and here you guys can increase the stroke size. Okay, let's say I want to have a stroke size of 10. Okay, let's come here. Let's have a stroke size of 10 point. And also I will come here under stroke, and I can just select what color stroke do I want. Okay, so let's come here. Let's take this particular color. And once you're done, let's select outside. And from here, I will go to file. And now let's click on save as. And over here, I will just name this one as untitled one. Okay, so I will just name this one as untitled one, which is there by default. So let's click over here on save. And this is the preview window, which will appear over here on my screen. Now I will just come here and I will just click on OK. And this particular Illustrator file has been basically saved. So now let's close this thing down. Okay, so I will just close this one down as well. And what I can do is let's come here, and over here, now I am going to put out an illustration. Let's go to import. Let's go to file. And now from here, you guys can just go down and select this untitled one file. Okay, make sure that you do have it as a footage. So I will come here and I will just import. Let's take it as a layer size, and I will just click over here on OK. And here, this untitled layers, you guys can see I do have this layer number 1, which I will just put over here on top of my line layer. Okay, so I will just come right over here, and I did one mistake. Okay, here I do have added some fill as well. Okay, so if you do want to do that, let's come here, and I will just come here and I will just modify it as well. Let's go to Illustrator file. Okay, let's come here. Let's go to this Illustrator file. As I was having a white background, I was not able to see that properly. Okay, so again, you guys also might face the same issue. Okay, so you guys, let's come here into my Illustrator, and it won't just take much time, maybe around 30 seconds for you to change that thing up. Let's come here. Let's select this untitled one file, and now you guys can just select this layer, and here under fill, make sure you come here and you give no fill option. Okay, so now again click on Control S. Okay, and here you guys can see this file is getting saved. Now let's come here, and over here let's take this layer, and now I will just bring this layer on top of this line layer. And yeah, this is how it actually looks. Okay, so now if you do want to decrease the size, okay, you guys can come here, and basically you guys can actually decrease the size. If you do want to move using the arrow key from your keyboard, you guys can basically move this thing right over here. Okay, so I will just come here onto this particular part, and you guys can just work with all of this accordingly. So let's come here, and from here, let's just move this thing up. Let's come here. Let's just move it up over here, and also from this particular sides as well. Okay, so I will come here. I will just move this from this particular side as well. Let's place it right over here. Okay, so now, the next thing, once I'm done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right over here, and I am going to create up a mask. Okay, so to create a mask, first off, I won't basically select anything. Okay, so let's come here, and now let's click on to this option over here on top, and let's take my rectangle tool, and I can basically mask it right over here. Otherwise, let's come here, let's select this line. Okay, and here I want to just mask out the line layer itself. Okay, so I will just select right over here, and let's come here and let's mask up a particular place. So let's come here, let's create up a mask of this whole thing right over here, as you guys can see. And what you guys can do over here is let's just select this particular part from here, and let's just view this particular layer which I have over here on top, as I do have applied mask on this layer but not the layer on top. So again, using Control Z, I will come back, and let's select this particular layer, and I want to mask this particular layer. Okay, so let's come here and let's try to mask this particular layer right over here, and let's place it exactly somewhere here. Okay, so I will just place it somewhere over here. Now let's take my selection tool, and what I'm going to do is I am going to double click, and now let's decrease the size of my mask. So first thing first, I will come here and I will just keep it quite like this. And over here into this layer number 1, I will go into the mask option. Okay, so once I am over here into the mask option, I am going to click on mask path. Okay, so I will just come here, click on this mask path option, and after few seconds, okay, I will just move it up few seconds over here. Okay, let's come here, let's go on to this option, let's move this one a little bit. Okay, so let's come here, let's make sure, let's move this one up a little bit. And now what I can do is I can just increase the size. Okay, so let's come here, let's increase the size, and now let's see how it actually looks. Okay, so if I just play this thing around, okay, here you guys can see this is how it will basically move around. Okay, but what I want to do is I also want to view this other layer as well. Okay, so I will just make sure I'm just only selecting this particular part, and here again what I'll do is I will come here, let's delete this one, let's come here and let's delete this layer as well. Okay, so I will come here, delete this layer as well. And now here under the mask path, if you want me to play this thing around here, this thing is basically being played. Okay. So again, what I'm going to do now is let's come here, and for this layer one, I will make sure that I come here. Let's just delete this part. And I also want to import this one as a file layer. So let's click over here on file. And over here, I want to import this one as a footage. Let's click on import. And over here, again, it is getting imported as this particular file. Okay, so 1:2 vector encoded file. Okay, so for now, let's just place it right over here. Okay, let's come over here onto this particular part. Okay, let's come here. If you just do want to zoom in, you guys can come here and you guys can basically zoom in over here onto this part as well. Okay, so to create that, let's come here onto the mask option. If you do want to increase the size of the mask, you guys can double click, and over here you guys can basically increase the size of the mask as well. So if I just keep it right over here, and if you just come here, let's just say I want to just select both of this part. And what I can do is I can come here and I can just increase the size. Okay, so make sure not to move the anchor point. Okay, so let's come right over here. And what I'm going to do is I am going to increase the size quite like this. Okay, so you guys can also come here and you guys can actually do that over here. So now let's bring my playhead over here at the start again. Okay, so I do have changed this particular part. Let's click on the mask again and let's delete this one as well. Okay, so from here, what I want to do is I want to come to this particular part and I want to just transform it accordingly. Okay, so let's come over here. Let's select this layer number one. Okay, and this is the untitled one. Over here, let's take my rectangle tool, and what I'm going to do is I am going to create a mask. So let's come here. Let's just create a mask over here. Okay. And now what I'll do is under mask, I will just go to mask path. I will just select the mask path option. Let's take my selection tool and you guys can just double click onto this part. And let's say I will just move this one a little bit over here into this mark. And now let's select this point over here. Okay, so I will just select this point over here. And instead of moving the whole thing, I will come here and I will just move this one little bit first over here. Okay, and once I've moved this one, I will let it stay over here for some times. Okay, so let's come over here, and now again I will just add another keyframe. Let's come here to just give this one up a pause. Let's come here, let's add another keyframe over here, and again let's come to this position over here. And what you're going to do is let's select this particular line. And again, what I'll do is I will just increase the timing over here. And just to give this one up a pause, again, let's come here for a few seconds. And over here, again, let's add up a keyframe over here. And again, let's come to this particular position. You guys need to just continue this thing up. Okay, so till the last over here. Okay, so let's come here. And again, what I'm going to do is I am going to just change up the position. Let's see the preview of how it actually looks right now. And here you guys can see. Now, if I come here, if I just click on shift, here you guys can see it's basically snapping. Okay, so once I'm done with this one, let's come here. Let's place it somewhere over here. And again, let's select this one or this edges and let's move this one up over here onto this line as well. Okay, so once I move this one over here into this line, let's add up a keyframe over here. And the same way, let's come here. Let's just move this one up right over here. Let's double click. And now you guys can come here and you guys can just place this thing over here. And again, let's come here. Let's just add up another keyframe over here as well. Okay, so now lastly, let's move this one. Let's click over here. And what I can do is I can just move this one up as well. Okay, and also I will add another keyframe right beside. Okay, let's come here. And with the same velocity, I will add another keyframe. And lastly, I will just come here. And what I can do is I will just double click let's come here, let's move this thing around onto this particular line. And again, let's move my playhead. And over here, I am going to add up another keyframe. Okay, let's come here. Let's add on to this keyframe option, and another keyframe will basically be added. Lastly, you will come here and just let's click onto this one. And now you guys can just increase the size from here, and you guys are basically done. So if you do want to see how it actually looks, let's play. This is how it will come. This is how it will go. And here you guys can see all of these points. It is actually creating me a infographic table. Okay, so if I just come here, let's deselect each and everything. And now I want to see an infographic of how it actually works. Let's say I do have made it for a sale presentation. Okay, like sales presentation of the whole year. I can actually use these things up right over here. And also, if you do want to add any kind of velocity to it, that there is a smoothness, I will come here, I will just select all of this, and I will just right click. Let's go to keyframe velocity, and over here under influence, let's go with 50. And I will come here and I will just go with 50 as well, but it will just do some crazy stuffs over here. Let's see. Let's play this thing up. And over here, you guys can see now this one is giving me a more smooth vibe. Okay, so here you guys can see it is actually showing me more smooth. But over here, you guys might be thinking, okay, this one doesn't look that great. Yeah, I do understand that it doesn't look that great. But to show you guys the example and to show you guys the steps of what all things you need to be done over here, this is quite okay, I guess. So now, lastly, what I'm going to do is let's come here. Let's bring this one over here at the exact starting. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to delete all of the other layers. Let's come here. Let's just delete this line composition. Okay. So I will just delete this one and all the other things. Let's click on shift. I will select all of this. Let's come here and let's just delete all of these parts. And also over here, I want to delete this one as well. Let's come here. I will just delete out this composition. Right now, I do have this layer and this layer only. Okay. So once I'm done here, you guys can see just a preview again. And now it is not looking that great. Okay. I just want to make it more appealing towards the one who is actually viewing it. So in that particular case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right over here and I am basically going to add up another layer. Okay, let's say I'm going to add up another layer of music. Okay, so if you do want to import music over here, you guys can just right click. You guys can go to import the same way you import other file. Let's click on file. And what you guys can do is from here, let's search in my resource file where I do have my footage. Here you guys can see I do have the MP3 format, which means it's an audio. Let's click on import, and over here it will basically get imported. So yeah, well, it's imported right now. But if I do want to put it over here into my timeline, for that, let's drag and let's drop this one. Okay. And here you guys can see that I do have this particular audio over here. So now let's just play this with my audio and let's see how it actually sounds. So yeah, I hope you guys do have understood this class on how you will be able to create an infographics quite like this. So if you do want to decrease the size, if you do want it to play it over here only, now let's just play this and it will be played only over here till this much. And again, you guys will be able to see that it will basically loop. Okay, so you guys can come here and select the timing. Let's select this one. Let's move my playhead at the starting. And now I want to export this file. Let's go to file and you guys can actually select the export option from here. Let's click on export and I want to add this here in my media encoder. And yeah, I hope you guys do have understood this class on how you will be able to create a visually appealing line chart animation. Okay. So I hope this whole tutorial was quite helpful for you for understanding different things about After Effects. Okay. So yeah, I also do have class project in this class, as you guys already know, and I'll be waiting for you guys to send me your work that I can view those and get back to you guys. Okay. So yeah, I hope to see you all in any other tutorial, in any other class. Till then, keep on practicing After Effects and keep on learning motion graphics, because once you master this particular skill, you will be well satisfied with the usage of this particular application. Okay. So take care, everyone. Keep on practicing Adobe After Effects. Here, as you guys can see, that I'm here in the workspace of the After Effects. And here now I do have one project. Let's say now what I want to do is I want to import a media. So I have shown you that there are different ways of how you will be able to import a media over here. So if you come here and click on your mouse, just right click, go to the import option, and you need to select that are you looking to download or import multiple files or only one file itself. So as I do need only one file right now, so I will just click over here on file. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this video, which I have over here, and I want to import it as a footage. Okay. And let's click on import. And here you guys can see that I do have created this particular video. And out of that, what I'm going to do is over here, I am going to create up a composition out of this. Okay. So for that, let's right click and I will click on new comp from selection. And here, as you guys can see, now I do have this particular composition. So I will just keep it on auto for now. Okay. So if I do have too much pressure on my PC, in that case, what it'll do is it will eventually decrease it to half or third or to quarter accordingly. So let's come here. Let's click on to fit. And here you guys can see it is basically fitting here on my screen. Okay. So if I just play it with my space bar, so let's come right over here. If you do want to play this, you guys can come here and you guys can see, you guys will be able to play this thing accordingly. So let's pause this one. Let's bring my playhead over here in the starting again. So the first thing what I'm going to do is I am going to create up a box. Okay. So the box is for my lower third to appear. Let's say I will come here, and if I do want to create a box, I need to go here into my toolbar and I need to select this rectangle tool, and the shortcut key for that is Q from my keyboard. And if you just hold left onto your mouse here, you guys can see that there are different shapes. Okay. So you guys will be able to take from this particular shapes, the rounded rectangle, the ellipse tool, the polygon tool, the star tool. Otherwise, here you do have the pen tool as well. Okay. So using pen tool, you guys will be able to customize. Okay. So if you want to add any vertex point, okay, you will be able to do that over here as well. But now let's go with this one. Let's create a rounded ellipse. But here now, let me show you that you guys can also face this same problem. Okay. So the problem over here is once I have selected this particular shape over here, I do have selected this layer in my timeline as well. So when I try to create a shape, you guys can see I am able to just mask this thing out. Okay. But I don't want to mask it. I just want a layer. And here in this layer panel also, you guys can see it is created as a mask. So let's come here. Let's click on Control Z to go back. Okay. Otherwise, you guys can come here and you guys can go to edit. And again, basically I'm back here. Okay. Let's come here. Let's import the file again. Let's click on import. Let's select this video and let's import it back over here. Then drag this one to this comp to create a composition out of it. And let's right click and let's rename this one. Okay. So let's come here. Let's click here and let's name it as the lower third. So I will name this one as the lower third and let's save this thing up. Okay. So once I do have this lower third page over here, again, I'm going to take this rounded rectangle and make sure that you are not selecting anything. So just select outside of the box. And now here you guys can see the icon have changed on my cursor. Okay, so if I come here and if I try to create up a rectangle, okay, so I will come here, let's click on OK, let's just hold and drag this one. So I will just hold and drag quite over here. And also you guys can see you do have the shape properties. Okay, so if you do want to increase the size or the width, okay, you guys can do it from here. If you do want to unlink this, you guys can come here and you guys can unlink this one as well. So the first thing what I'll do is I will come here in the stroke option and I will try to turn off the stroke. So for that, I will come here and I will just put this thing exactly to 0. And for fill color, what I'm going to do is I am going to take up a white color. Otherwise, let's say I will just try to pick up a color from my background. Okay, so here you guys can see there are different color options which I can basically choose from. Let's come here. Let's take this particular color. And here you guys can see I do have this color as well. Okay, so once I'm done with this particular part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my selection tool. And here you guys can see this is basically my shape layer. Okay. So in my shape layer, if I do want to rename it, I can come here and I can rename it. But before that, let's go to this transform option and let's decrease the opacity. Okay. So for that, at starting, what I'll do is I will just add up a keyframe for opacity. So let's add up a keyframe. And now I am going to turn this into 0. Okay, so let's come here. Let's place or let's put this one as 0. Okay, so I have put this one as 0. And I want this particular box to appear at 0.1 second. Okay, so over here, you guys can basically check the timing as well. Okay, so I will come here. I will just change the timing from here as well. You guys can do that. And what I can do is I will just turn it back again to maybe around 75. Okay, so let's come here. Let's put it around 75. Okay, so here this is basically done. Let's come and let's see once I play. And this is how it will basically appear. Okay, so again, let's come here. Let's make it 0. So let's come here. And if I just play it, this is how it will basically look. Okay. And now once I am done over here working with this particular panel, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, decrease my contents panel. So let's come here. Let's just decrease the content panel over here. So now again, let's try to close these things down. Okay. And I will come here. Let's close this down and I won't select any layer. Here you guys can see I do have my bounding box. Okay. So now again, what I'm going to do over here with this bounding box is I will come here. And if I do want to add anything, I can come here and I can just add motion graphic if I do want to move this thing around. But that one, I will only use it for my text. Okay. So let's come here. Let's take my horizontal type tool. And what I'm going to like is I am going to write Serena. Okay. Serena Adams. And I will just click on enter and I will type CEO of Tech House. So I will come here and I will just type this thing down. And once I'm done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this whole thing up. So once I've selected this thing, let's come here, let's go and let's fill this one with a different color. Okay, so I will just give this one up a black color. Over here, if you do want to work on with this horizontal scaling, you guys can actually scale it horizontally. Okay, let's come here, let's scale it horizontally over here. And now with my selection tool, I'm going to come here and yeah, this is one problem which you guys can also face over here, which is owning your caps lock. Okay, so if your caps lock is basically on, you will get to see an error like this, but let's click on caps and here it's back again. So let's come here. Let's take my selection tool again. And with my selection tool, I'm going to place this one just here in this particular place. Okay, so I will just place this one right over here. And what I wanted to do is I will come here. I will just bring my playhead over here at the start. And now let's come here. Let's just move it over here on top a little bit. Let's play this one. and this is how it should appear. And if you do want to see it more, let's come here into the shape layer. Let's go to the transform option. And once my box over here actually appears properly, what I want to do is I want to just start this from here. Let's click on shift, that I will snap into my keyframe. Okay, so using shift here, you guys can see it's basically snapping. Okay, so the same way I will select this layer. Let's click on shift, and over here also you guys can see that small snap. Okay, so once I'm done with this particular part, I'm done with the positioning of my text. I am done writing the text, whatever I wanted to put. And again, if you do want to change anything of your text, come here and you guys can just increase the text size. Okay, so let's come here. Let's increase the text size. If you do want to move on top a little bit, you guys can come here and you guys can basically move this one on top as well. Okay, so using the arrow key, if you do want to place it over here, you guys can also place it right over here as well. Okay, so you guys can see how it will appear on the screen. Okay, but what I want to do is I want to change up the position. So let's come here, let's select this one, and also the same thing, you guys can actually do it from here. Okay, so for that, again, you guys can come here, and if you do want to change the position, let's say I will just select this one. Let's click on shift and I will just place it right over here on this particular side. Okay, so I will just come here and let's say I will just move this one on top a little bit. Okay, so I will just place it over here on top, and I want to position it right over here. So once I'm over here, let's click on shift, and now I will add up a keyframe over here. So for that, here you guys can see the positioning. Let's come here and let's add a keyframe. And what I can do is once I move into this particular part, okay, so once I move in right over here, I will just select this one. And now I will just click on shift and I want it to appear quite like this over here on my screen. So now let's look at the preview. Here you guys can see this is how it actually looks. Okay, so if you want it to move again, let's just play it up. And here, let's bring my playhead again here in the start. But here you guys can see it's not looking that great. Okay, so again, if I come here, let's take my playhead. And from this point, what I'm going to do is I am going to click on shift and I am going to position this exactly over here in the center. Okay, so now if I play this one around, let's say I will just click on shift and this is how it should basically appear. Okay, so here it will first appear at this particular place. And once you are done, let's say I am right over here into this 5 or 6 second mark, I want it to disappear. So the same way, again, come here and you guys can add another keyframe. And what you can do is let's come here, let's go to the 7-point mark, and over here I want it to disappear. Okay, so let's come here, let's click on shift and I will just place it right over here. And what I can do is I will just select this text and let's move this one up. Let's click on shift and I will just move it back over here again. Okay, so if you do want to see how it actually looks, let's click on play. This is how it will appear. Okay, and this is how it will basically go off. Okay, so once I'm over here, let's click on shift and let's see it snaps. So as you guys can see over here, this particular thing snaps. Let's come here into my layer panel and I can also use the shortcut key of O. Okay, so if I just come here in my transformation option, let's go back, let's come to this option. And from here, you guys can see I do have the opacity over here opened already. So here you guys can see 75% opacity is there. And if I just click on shift, here you guys can see at this particular point, I can actually add another keyframe. Okay, so that keyframe basically will be of this 75. So I will come here, click on this add keyframe options. And once I move on to this 8th option over here, what I'll do is I will just change the opacity to 0 again. Okay, so I will come here and I will just change its opacity to 0 again. Okay, so I can come here and I can just change the opacity. Let's play this thing up. Let's see how it actually looks. And over here, you guys will be able to see that this is how it just disappears. And if I do want to add any kind of ease in and ease out option, I will come here and I will just select all of these keyframes, right click, let's go to keyframe assistant, and I will just select ease. And over here, down part, if I do want to do anything as well, let's change the keyframe velocity. Let's say I want to do 70. Okay. And now let's come here. Let's do 70 over here as well. And now let's click on OK. And let's see how it actually appears. Let's just play this thing up. And here you guys can see it is looking better. Okay. Comparing to the last one. So this is how you guys can actually create this animation. So if you just play this thing up here, you guys can see that I do have my lower third right over here. Okay. So let's come here. Let's close this thing down. And yeah, this is how you guys will be able to create some stunning lower third for your video. Okay. So this part is done, I guess. But the same way, if you want to add any kind of watermark, you guys can also do it right from here. Okay, let's say you do have any kind of logos, and if I don't have any logo, we can also download. Let's go to import. Let's go to file. And what I can do is I do have this Adobe After Effects page. Okay, so I will come here and I will just click on import. And here you guys can see I am importing this particular PNG file. So what I can do is I can come here, and if I do want to bring it down, I can bring this one down as well. So if I select this one, over here, you guys will be able to see that I do have this whole PNG over here. But let's say I want to put it over here on top. And now I can just decrease the size as well. So let's scale it down from here. And now using no layer, let's click on Control Plus to zoom in. And what I can do is let's select this one. Let's scale it down maybe to 5%. So let's come here, 5 over here, and 5 over here as well. Okay, so now let's click on Control Plus. And what I can do is I can just place this thing somewhere. Okay, so let's skip this one right over here. Let's select this. And what I can do is I can just place my watermark in any other side. Let's say if I do want to place it over here on top, or let's say I want to place it somewhere over here, I can basically do that. So for me, let's say I want to place it right over here. And also now what I want to do is I don't want it to get quite visible the way it is right now. So let's say if I just play this thing here, you guys can see this is how it will basically appear. And this is how it goes, and it also disappears. But I want my watermark to be kind of faded. Okay. So for that, what you guys can do is once you're right over here, you guys can just click on this particular arrow, which will open up your transform option. And under here, you guys can give it up a 75. Otherwise, let's say I will just slide and decrease it maybe to around 60. Okay, so I will just come here and I will just decrease it around 60 over here. And if you want to see it just for once, let's click on full. And this is how it will basically look. Okay, so you guys can basically put up a watermark in your video as well. Okay, so once I do have this thing, now let's go back. Let's change it to quarter. And now if I just play this thing, let's see how it actually looks. And yeah, it looks quite okay. Over here, you guys can see the total duration of the video is 10 seconds. So I will come here, I will just check the total duration. And also if I come here, if I just decrease the box size over here, let's place it. Let's move it somewhere over here. I want it to appear exactly at that particular place. And here you guys can see suddenly this particular thing basically appears. So over here also I can work on with the opacity. Let's come here, let's select this one. And at this particular point, what I want is I do want zero opacity. Okay, so let's come here, let's add up an animation. And over here now, let's say I want to have 0. And once I come to this particular mark over here, let's click on shift. And now I will just add another animation of 60. Let's click on 60 and let's click on enter over here. So here you guys will be able to see the changes. And this is how it slowly appears over here on top. Okay. And what I want is I want to have my watermark throughout this whole video. Okay, if you do need to change anything, you guys select both of this, right click, and also for keyframe assistant, you guys can go to ease or exponential scaling option. Let's say I do have applied the exponential scaling, and this is how it will basically appear right over here. As you guys can see, now I do have this exponential scaling option. And if I do want to close this thing, I can come here and I can just close or delete this whole thing altogether. And again, at the first time, I can add keyframes. Let's add keyframe over here. Let's make it 0. And again, over here, let's click on shift. And now what I'll do is I will just type 60 over here. So let's type 60. Let's click on enter. And over here, I do have the same thing. Now, let's see, I will select both of this. Come here, let's go with the keyframe assistant. And let's go with ease in. And let's play this up. And yeah, this one looks quite nice. And also over here, if you guys just take up a look over here, you guys can see that I do have 4 of these layers. Okay, so you guys can basically have multiple layers, and don't get afraid by looking at all of those layers, because once you're working in After Effects, it's very normal to have this many layers. So what we can do is each and individual layer, we can work individually with all of those. Okay, so yeah, I hope you guys do have understood this class on how you will be able to create up a lower third, and also how you will be able to add any kind of watermark in your video. Okay, so let's see the preview for the last time. Let's play this one. Here you guys can see I do have my logo over here, the watermark, and also this, and the box will just disappear, and this is the end. Okay, so here you guys can see this is not that smooth right now. So in next class, I'll be showing you guys how you will be able to add up a music or any kind of audio into your video, and also how you will be able to smoothen or customize easing using your graph editor in Adobe After Effects. So see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone. So over here on my screen, as you guys can see, this is the same workspace and this is the same comp in which we were working in our last class. Okay. So if you didn't see here, check out, this is lower third and this is the watermark which we worked on. Okay. So if you come here and if you see the transition, it's just not that smooth. Okay, so using graph editor, what you're going to do is you are going to smoothen those things up. Okay, the movement and each and everything, we are going to smooth those things up. So for that, the first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on with the text itself. Okay, so not the whole thing. So I will just work on with the text, and for that I will come here in this particular layer, and let's go and let's come here, and I do have both of these keyframes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to delete these existing keyframes from here. So for me, now what I want to do is I want to come to this part. I do want to make some changes. So first thing, let's say if I come here into the 7 seconds mark, and what I'm going to do is I will come here and I will add another keyframe. Okay. So for that, what I need to do is if I come here, let's say it will just reappear over here on the screen and it will stay till this much, let's say till 7 seconds. And here you guys can see, you guys can also write the timing exactly to this particular place. And what I'm going to do is here you guys can see I do have the position, and here this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. And individually also, if you do want to move, let's select this one. And now let's click on shift and let's bring it over here on top a little bit. And once I'm done with this one, what I'm going to do is I am going to bring it down. So let's come here, let's place it into this particular position again. Let's select this one and let's click on shift. Okay, so I will just select this word, and now let's click on shift, and again I will just put it over here in the center. And now I will just come few frames forward, and what I'm going to do is I am going to come here and I'm going to bring it down. Okay, so I will just bring it down exactly right over here, and let's see how this animation turns out. So here it basically appears, and I will try and see how it actually looks. Okay, so let's come here. Let's go into this particular point. Let's come to this particular part right over here. And what I want to do is I can also copy. Let's click on this keyframe. Let's click on Control C. And after that, what you can do is you guys can come here into this particular position, and into this particular position, I'm going to put out another keyframe using Control V. Okay, so let's select this one. And over here, I am going to put out the same value. So let's come over here. And what I'm going to do now is, let's say I will just select all these three, and I'm going to move this one a bit further. Okay, so once I have moved this one a bit further, as you guys can see, I do have this particular framing over here. So again, I will just change up the position. Let's say I will just move the y-axis. Okay, so I will just keep this thing over here in the center. And now let's see how it actually looks. Let's just play this thing up. And over here, you guys can see, I will just come here and it will be moved over here on top, and it will just disappear. So again, let's come here. If you do want to delete it again, you guys can come here and delete it again. Let's see this particular place. So using spacebar, you guys can just play your things down. And again, right over here, again, if I come here, let's come and let's delete this part as well. And the first thing, let's come here, let's just add another keyframe directly over here. Let's add this keyframe. Let's come to this particular point. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one on top. So let's click on Shift. I will just place it over here on top. And now I will just place this one over here down. So this is basically done. And what I can do is here you guys can see, if I just play, you guys will be able to see the changes. It will just give up a bounce, but that is not quite great. Individually, if I do want to change the positioning, I can individually change these positions. And already you guys can see this is basically applied as is. Okay, so here you guys can see this is not the normal keyframe which we use. Okay, so here it is already being applied. If I do want to work on with the keyframe velocity, I can also come here and I can just work on with the keyframe velocity over here. You guys can see if I come here, let's give 70 over here as well. And now I will just click on OK. And the same way you guys can apply to all of it. Let's select all of this, right click. Okay. And you guys can actually select the position and stuff as well. And once you're done with this particular part, let's say now you want to actually work with this individually. Okay. So for that, the first thing what you're going to do is you're going to select up a keyframe which you do want to manipulate, and you guys can go into your graph editor. So where is the graph editor basically? Over here in this particular layer, as you guys can see, just beside the global motion bar option, you do have this graph editor. So first thing what you guys can do is you guys can just click on to this graph editor, and here you guys can see that basically you do have two different colored lines. Okay, so this red color line is basically the x-axis. Okay, so here the movement in the x-axis which I have put from the right hand side to the left hand side, once it appears here on my screen, the text and also the box, then over here you guys can see this is the y-axis. Okay, and each and every line over here you guys can see they do have this particular handles. Okay, so basically if you do want to move out these handles, you guys will be able to move out and work on with all of these handles over here. You guys can see these yellow lines. And let's say you're getting a bit confused with these lines and you want to work with this line separately. Let me just get the size a little bit more that I can view it properly. And if you do want to view it separately, you guys will be able to do that as well. Okay, so for that, what you need to do is here you guys can see there are different kind of options. Okay, so here if you just click on fit graph, okay, you guys can fit it. And now I do want separate dimensions. So I will just click on to this particular icon. And here you guys can see that I do have this separate icons over here. So for that, what I can do is if you do want to change up anything, if you double click and if you do want to change anything over here, you guys will be able to do that. So if you just come here. If you do want to move it, you guys can come here and you guys can basically move this thing up. Let's say here are also a different point where you do want to ease. Let's say at this particular point, what I want to do is I just want to ease. And here also here you guys can see easy ease in. And also here you do have the option of easy ease out. Okay. And if you do want to change any of this point here, you guys can actually edit the selected keyframes over here. Okay, so let's say I will just select this particular keyframe over here. And what I want to do is I do want to actually have this ease option applied. Okay, and once I apply this one here, you guys can see if I do want to have this smoothness, I can come here and I can just have the smoothness over here. And the same way, I will just select this part and also over here, I will just apply this eases and also I will just work on with this particular handle. Okay, so I will just work on with this handle right over here. Let's just place it. And if you do move it around, you guys can actually see the movement over here all around. Okay, so let's come here. Let's check out the separate lines. If you do want to work on with the Y, you guys can come here. And let's say you just want to work on with the Y axis, you guys can come here and you guys can select those things as well. Okay, so let's come here into this particular point. And what you're going to do is let's apply ease to this point. So I will come here. I will just apply the ease option over here. Let's select this graph. And again, I will come here and let's say ease. And now I do have this handle over here as well. And let's come to this option. Let's apply this ease option. And I will just work on with this particular handle as well. Okay, so let's come here. Let's just move it around. Let's see, do I need to make any more changes or not? Now let's see the preview of how it actually looks. So now once I'm done with this, let's bring it up right over here and let's play this thing up. Okay, so here you guys can see there is more smoothness over here. You guys can see this is how it actually looks. If you do want to work more individually, you guys can come here. And if you do want to view it in a better way, you guys can do that. And also if you want to convert selected keyframes to fold, you guys can do that. And if you do want to move or make it linear, you do have all of these options over here as well. Okay, so individually you guys can come here, work on with these handles. Let's bring it right over here. And now again, what you guys can do is you guys can just bring it quite over here into this particular place. Let's move this thing up at the beginning. Let's come here. Let's play using the space bar. And this is how it will appear. And now this is how it will go off. Okay, that is quite smooth. Okay, so yeah, I hope you guys do have understood the usage of the graph editor for a better movement and for a better ease in and ease out option. Here you guys can see, you guys can smoothen all of this part quite easily. Let's say if I just pause this one, if I come here, let's say I want to choose this particular point. Okay, so from here, if you do want to add some keyframes, let's come here. And what I can do is now as I do have this handle, I can just give it a space quite like this. Let's come here. Let's put eases. And now again, I do have another angle over here. Now if I come here and let's say if I just play this thing, you guys will be able to see that it doesn't look that great. Okay, so I will just go Control Z over here. So let's come here. Let's place this one the way it was before. So let's pause this. Let's come here. And now let's play it using Shift. And yeah, this one looks more professional and this one looks more better. Okay, so here you guys can see if you do want to make any changes in here in the X-axis or in the Y-axis more, you guys can come here. And let's say over here, you guys can increase the Y-axis. And over here, let's just move this thing around. Let's say, let's move this one around as well. Let's come here and let's try to move this one. Let's come here and let's move this one as well. Okay, so over here, I do have this handle. So I will just move out this handle and let's see the changes. Let's click on play and let's try to see. Okay, you guys can take out your own time and you guys can basically work on with that. So Control Z to go back again. And if you do want to undo it, you guys can go to edit And here you guys can see, you guys can just undo adjustment. Let's go to undo ease adjustment. Let's go to undo a adjustment over here, and you guys can just click on Control Z, which is back again over here at the same place. So I don't want to change this part, okay? Only I do want to change is this particular keyframe which I have over here. So for that, I will just move this one over here on top. And now let's see this particular point right over here. Let's play this one up. Let's bring it up. And yeah, this one looks quite better. So yeah, any kind of animation, whatever you choose, you guys will be able to do it right from here. Okay. So yeah, I hope you guys do have understood this class on how you will be able to work on with the graph editor. So now let's move on to this other part where I will be showing you that how you will be able to add an audio in your video. Okay. So here you guys can see I already do have this video. So to import, there are a lot of options. I don't have to tell you again. So right click, let's click on import. And from here, let's select the file. Okay. So once I do have selected this file, you guys can see that I do have different kind of audio. Okay. So I can come here. I can check out the length. Okay. Let's come here. Let's take this audio. Okay. So I will come here, and here this file is basically added. So there are different ways. If I do want to put it up in my composition itself, there are a lot of ways of how to do that. So first thing is, if you right click, and over here, if you do want to actually drag this directly over here on top of my video, otherwise I can come here, and from here, I can basically drag it down in this layer panel as well. So let's take out this audio. Let's drag this down into this panel. And here you guys can see that I do have my audio as well. Okay, so if I come here, and you guys can see the whole composition is only 11 seconds. Okay, so for that, now here you guys can see I do have my audio over here. And let's say if I just click on the space bar, and yeah, this is how it will basically get played. And for that, let's come here. Let's drag this down. Under this, we do have the audio option. And under audio here, you guys can see that I do have the audio levels. Okay. And under audio levels, what I can do is let's say I will come over here, and in this particular level, what I'm going to do is I am going to add up a keyframe over here. And at this particular point, let's say at this 1 or 1.5 second, okay, I will come to this middle part. I'm going to add another keyframe. Okay, if I do want to increase the audio levels, let's say, okay, let's come here. Let's increase the audio level maybe to around 5. And I will come to this particular point. Let's say I will just come to this particular point, and I am going to go minus 25. So let's see the difference. So here you guys can see that I do have a clear difference right over here. And the same way, to ease out, again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here at this particular point, and I'm going to add up a keyframe. Okay. So for that, here you guys can see, now again, I do have the keyframe, which is +5, and I will add another keyframe here. And lastly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another keyframe, which is minus 25 dB. Okay, so let's come here and let's go with minus 25 dB. And now if I just play this thing, let's come here and I will just decrease my audio a little bit. Let's play this thing up. So yeah, here you guys can basically hear the changes which I had. Okay. And again, what I'll do is I will come here, and if you do want to work on with the waveform, if you do want to view the waveform, you guys can individually come here and you guys can actually view this waveform over here as well. Okay. So this is the wave of the music. You guys can basically check the wave out from here. If you do need to make any kind of change, if you do want to link it up with any other layer or any other property, you guys can actually do it right from here itself. Okay. And if you do want to move from keyframe to keyframe in any of these categories, not only in audio, let's say for place or let's say for position as well, you guys will be able to do that from here itself. So let's come down, and over here, you guys can see if I just click on to go to next keyframe, Here you guys can see it is in next keyframe. And again, if I click here, you guys can see it is in another keyframe. If you do want to apply anything, you guys can come here and select all these four and right click. Let's go to keyframe velocity, and you guys can actually see that it has basically been changed. Okay, if you do want to increase the influence, you guys can come here, increase the influence a bit. Let's say I will go with 1. Okay, and also over here I will go with 1. And if I just click on OK, let's play this thing up. That is quite smooth. What I felt might not be the best, but it works. Okay, so now let's come over here. And what I'm going to do is, if I don't want to save up this file, let's say I don't want to save up this video, how you're gonna do that? So to download that, let's come here into my file. And from file, let's go to export, and I will just add this into my media encoder queue. Let's click on add to media encoder queue, and my Adobe Media Encoder will basically open up. Okay, so from there, I will be able to download this video. I have already showed you guys about exporting, how you will be able to export this. But I hope you guys are basically clear about how you will be able to use the graph editor, which is basically right over here. Okay, if you do want to turn it off, you guys can just click one more time. Once you have selected, once you're done working, you guys can close that thing down. Here you guys can see I do have opened up my media encoder. And once you're done, make sure to click over here to start the queue. And yeah, I hope to see you all in the next chapter, where we'll be learning more about After Effects. So see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone.
So over here, as you guys can see, now I'm here in another new project which I do have created over here. So the first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to create up a new comp or a new composition, whatever you say. So for that, I want to create a new composition from the footage itself. Okay, so I don't want to do it manually. Let's take the footage, and let's say the footage is around 1 minute. So for that, let's come here. Let's click on new composition from footage. And over here, you guys can see that I do have all of these footages right over here. Okay. So if I come here, if I select this particular video, let's click on import. Once you are done, you guys can see this particular evade or this particular thing has been imported. So let's come here. Let's decrease the size. Let's go with fit option. And here you guys can basically see the ages as well. Okay. So over here, I am able to see the ages, and this is the video and this is the composition. And here you guys can see the total duration of this particular video is around 15 seconds. Okay, so if you come here, if you do want to check up more information, you guys can come here. Let's drag this onto the right hand side. Here you guys can see the total duration of the video is 15 seconds and 7 frames. Let's come here back again. The same is for the composition itself. Over here in my timeline, you guys can see there are different things. Okay, so on top here, you guys can see this is the current time indicator. And right below this one, over here, you guys can see I do have the work area. Okay, so I will work with this particular one. Let's say I want my video from 4 seconds. Let's say I will come here. Let's select this 4 seconds mark, and I will come to this particular position. And from 4 second mark, let's say I want my video to be 6 seconds. Okay, so the total duration is around 8 seconds. So over here, you guys can see now I do have total of 8 seconds over here. So for that, now if I don't want to have only this part of the video, what I'm going to do now is, as I've selected this part, as I work with this particular part, which is known as the worked area, here is the starting. And here, this is the ending of the work area. Okay. So for that, what I'll do now is let's come here. Let's go to composition. And here, just under set poster time, you guys can see an option known as trim comp to work area. So I've already showed you what the work area is. Now let's trim comp or the composition to my work area. And you guys can see what is the shortcut. The shortcut for that thing is Ctrl plus Shift plus X from your keyboard. Okay, so now let's click Trim Comp to Area. And here you guys can see now this is my total frame size. Okay, so here you guys can see this is the total frame size now right over here. And now you guys can see the total duration of the video have basically changed. Okay, so the same way if I come here and if I do want to import this video, okay, I can also import the video from here itself. Okay, so for that, what I need to do is I need to come here and again select composition. And now if I do want to save this file, I will go to add to media encoder. Okay, so I will come here. Let's click on add to media encoder queue, which will open up my media encoder. And after that, I can just download this video all by myself. Okay, so this is one of the basic way of how you will be able to trim down the video. And also, if you want to come here, if you do want to just trim it up a little bit, you guys can come here and this is how you guys can actually trim down your video quite easily. Okay, so I can show you this particular way as well. Okay, so once this is done, let's click on this particular option. And here, this one is basically getting rendered. Okay, so I will just wait for this particular thing to get rendered. And here, once I've done rendering, I can come here and I can just check these things up. Okay, so over here, if I just click, you guys can see the total duration of that video. Before it was around 15 seconds. Now it's only 7 seconds over here. Okay, so let's come here. Let's select all these things and let's click on cut. Let's go to my desktop and from here, let's go to my resource file. Let's click on Control V. Okay, replace it in this position. And also, I will just click on continue. And over here, I will just click on OK and let's cancel this thing up. Let's close down my media encoder as I'm done working with that. Let's come here onto the Illustrator. And yeah, I hope you guys do have understood this class on how you will be able to trim down up a video. Okay, so in next class, we'll be learning that how you will be able to do some color correction in After Effects. So see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone.
So over here, as you guys can see, now I am here in the same workspace and the same project which we were working in our last class. Okay, so over here on my screen, you guys can see that I do have a video. Let's click on the space bar. Let's play this thing up. And over here, you guys can see this is the video which is being basically played right now over here on my screen. So if I do want to change some basic colors or if I do want to give some basic color correction to this particular video, there are a few different things that we can do. Okay, so the first thing is you guys need to go here into effects and presets panel. Okay, but if you don't see your effects and presets panel over here on the right hand side of your screen, so for that you need to go here into the menu bar, and from the menu bar you guys need to go to Windows, and from here you need to make sure that you are selecting the effects and presets. Okay, so once you on this effects and presets option here, you guys can see there are different kind of options. Okay, you guys will be able to do a lot of things. You guys will be able to put up a lot of effects, lot of presets. But over here into this particular class, we are going to learn about basic color correction. Okay, so nothing fancy, but I'll be showing you guys about some of the basic color correction. So for that, what I need to search over here is I will be searching for Lumetri color. Okay, so once I do have this Lumetri color under color correction, what I can do is I can come here, I can just drag this one and I can just place it right over here. So there are different ways to put out that keyframe. If I come here and again, if I do want to place it, I can also do that. So let's come here, let's select outside. And let's say if I do want to take it in a different layer, Okay, I don't want to take this particular effect directly onto this layer. Okay, so let's say first, let me show you guys an example. You guys will understand it in a better way. So if I just put it right over here, you guys can see I do have my effects control panel over here on top. Okay, so if you don't have your effects control panel over here on top, what you guys can do is you guys can go to your Windows again, and from here make sure you select the effects control panel. Okay, so here down you guys can see I do have my effects control on. So I will just close this thing down again, and let's say I will come here, I will select this one. Let's click on delete, and I want to actually do it in a different layer. Okay, let's say if I do have a lot of thing and the same video, I do want it in different presets. Okay, so for that, what I'll do is first thing first, I will go to my layers. Okay, and under layers here, you guys can see I do have the new option. Okay, here you guys can see you guys will be able to create up a new text, any color, any camera. But for me, I will directly go on to adjustment layer. Okay, so let's click on adjustment layer. And now I do have this particular layer just on top of this particular video. Okay, so if you're putting your adjustment layer, where do you want to put this Library color or any color changes, make sure to put on top of the video. Okay, so first thing first, again, go to Library color, make sure to drag, okay, make sure to drag and drop this one over into this adjustment layer. Okay, so I will directly come here onto this adjustment layer. But now from here, I need to delete one. Okay, I have did it twice. So let's come here in this Library color. If you do want to change the name, you guys can come here and you guys can just change the name from Library color to Lumetri color 2 to Lumetri color. Okay, so under this you guys can see that I do have different options. Okay, so if I just come here on top as well, you guys can see under these effects I do have a lot of options. So the first thing is this basic correction. Okay, so under basic correction, if you guys are familiar with any other software by Adobe, you guys will be familiar with all these options like input LUTs and white balance, temperature, tint, saturation, exposure, and all as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is first thing, if I come here, if I don't want to take any of these presets, okay, or if I do have already customized any preset, or I do want to customize that, I can do that basically from here. And now if I do want to browse something, I can also browse, and already there are existing presets which you can apply. Okay, so let's bring it over here in the center. And now each and everything over here basically have this particular option where you will be able to add on some keyframes. Let's say at this particular point, I do want to increase the temperature. So using that, I will be able to do. Okay, so for that, let's come here, and here the first thing is color. Okay, so under color, if I want to work with the white balance, I can come here and I can just work on with the white balance over here. Let's come to this option. Let's click on OK. And now I will just increase the temperature from here. Okay, let's come here. Let's place this one. And now if you do want to increase the temperature, here you guys can see this is how you guys will be able to increase the temperature itself. Let's come here. Let's put it to somewhere around 85. Okay, and if you just drag this down, here you guys can see that you do have this basic slider. Okay, so you guys will be able to use the slider as well. And now the next option comes is the tint. Okay, so you guys can come here and you guys can drag this down as well. Okay, so let's put this one somewhat around 8. And if you do want to increase the saturation, let's come here, let's put it somewhat around 130 for the saturation. And here you guys can see there are other options as well, known as exposure. If you want to increase the exposure, you guys can come here, and let's say I will just decrease the exposure a little bit. Okay, so minus 0.2. And also, if you do want to increase the contrast, you guys can come here and increase the contrast as well. Okay, so let's come here, and now I am going to add up a keyframe. Let's click on contrast. Over here, I do have added a keyframe. Let's move on to this particular part. Okay, so I will just come here, move on to this particular part. And again, what I'm going to do is I am going to change out the contrast. Okay, so if you do want to if you do want to change the contrast, maybe around -50. Okay, so I will just add up this one right over here. So if I just play, you guys can see the changes, and also over here into the highlights option, I will also apply. So let's go to this highlights option over here, and now I will just click on shift and it will just come to this particular position right over here. Okay, so here you guys can see it's basically snapping. Okay, so for that, again, what I'm going to do is let's come here and let's just decrease the creative option. Let's go to basic correction. And what I'm going to do is I am going to select this color, and under this one here, you guys can see that I do have this option. Let's come here. Let's on out the color. And again, what I'll do is I will come here, and if you do want me to increase the highlight, you guys can come here and increase the highlight from here itself. Okay, so if you do want to see the changes of how it will change, here you guys can see the changes inside my video. Okay, so let's pause this thing down. If you do want to add any kind of shadows, you guys can come here and decrease it. And if you do want to work on with the whites, here you guys can see you guys can work with the whites. Okay, so I will just keep it somewhat around -10. And over here, I can also change out the blacks. Okay, so if I just move here, you guys can see I can just work on with the blacks as well. So I do have already applied those things. And if you come here, if you just turn it off, this is how it used to look before. But now once I have applied here, this is how it looks right now. Okay, so this particular image to give you more detail. Okay, and also, let's say you do have a video, okay? And now you don't want to manually sit here and you don't want to do your work, okay? You want After Effects to do the color correction by itself. Okay, so for that, you guys can come here and click onto this auto option, which will analyze this particular frame or the whole video, and it will color correct it accordingly. Okay, so I hope you guys do have understood this class. And also, if you do want to reset each and every values which you have put over here, you guys can come here, click on reset, and everything over here will be resetted. Okay, and if you do come here, let's say you have changed this creative option over here. Here you guys can see you do have the sharpening option over here. You do have the vibrance, the saturation. You guys can actually check out the color balance over here. Let's say if I just take this one and let's go on with the tint a little bit. Let's come to this particular part. And from here, now let's move on to the curves. And also you will be able to add frames. Okay, let's come here. Let's work on with the whites. Here you guys can basically move this thing up a little bit, and over here on top just move this up a little bit as well. And also, let's say I will just click on add over here and add over here. Let's move it, let's bring it down a little bit, and also let's come here and let's move it up over here as well. Okay, so now if I just come down here, you guys can see there are a lot of options. So once you're done working with the curves as well, there are color wheels using which you guys will be able to select what is going to be the midtone, what is going to be the shadow over here, and also how the highlight is going to be. Okay, so let's turn off the color wheels again. And now comes the HSL secondary. Okay, so this particular option also give you some key refining option. If you do want to correct anything, you guys can actually correct these things as well. If you do want to add any kind of blur, okay, you guys can come here and you guys can add different kind of blur over here. Let's come here, let's decrease this to 0. So come here, let's click on 0. Let's close this down and let's come here. I will just close down the HSL. And lastly, we will be coming here into the vignette option. Okay, so let's come to this vignette option over here. And under this, you guys can see that you do have the amount. Okay, so first thing, if you come here, you guys can actually select the amount over here. You guys can see this particular lining just beside. Okay, so let's come here. Let's increase this one a little bit, or let's say I want to decrease this one by 1%. Okay, so I will come here. I will just decrease this one by 1%. And also, if you do want to actually work on the midpoint, let's come here and let's click on 50. And here, this is being applied. And also, you guys can check what is going to be the roundness. Okay, so let's come here. Let's put the roundness quite around 35. So I will just put 35 over here. And if you do want to work on with any kind of feather, here you guys can see without feather, it is quite sharp. Okay, so if I don't have any feather, you guys can see the vignette is quite sharp, which I don't want. Okay, so let's come here and let's put it around 30. Okay, so 30 basically looks good. And also, if you do want to work with the keyframes over here as well, you guys can also work on with the keyframes. Let's say I want to come here in the midpoint, this part and this part over here. And now I will just turn everything to 0, then 50, 35, and 30. Okay, let's come here. Let's put 0 over here. And I will come here. I will put 0 over here as well. And I will just keep this one 0 as well. So let's place it right over here. And now what you're going to do is once it comes to this particular part, I am going to give the midpoint 50. And I'm going to give this roundness 35. And over here to this feather, I am going to give this one up a 30. Okay, so once I do have applied this one, let's see the changes in my video. So once I play, this is how you guys can see how it actually works. Okay, so here now, if I just play this thing, this is how it's going to look. Okay, and this is how it will basically appear. So now once I am done over here, what you guys can do is let's come here and let's see how it used to look before. Okay, let's come here. And this is how it used to look before. And this is how it looks right now with the Lumetri color. And guys, if you do want to apply more than one Lumetri color or more than one effects, you guys can always apply more than one effect as well. Okay, but under basic correction, you guys can see that you do have a lot of options which you guys can use over here. And also I have showed you guys about the vignette, how you will be able to use the vignette over here. Okay, so yeah, I hope you guys do have understood this class on how you will be able to do some basic color correction. And also over here, I do have showed you guys about the adjustment layer. Okay, so why did I show you about adjustment layer? So now let's say if I come here and if I just turn it off, you guys are not able to see what changes did I make. I don't have to come here and turn it off onto this effects, but if I just keep my effects the way it is, and now if I don't turn it back on again, I won't be able to see this thing up. Okay, so now again, let's on this one and let's see this particular preview for the last time. So I will show you guys before, and this is after I edited. Okay, so this is done. And lastly, what you need to do is you need to save this particular file. Okay, so for that, make sure you guys go to your project panel, and from here, let's come to this composition which I have. Okay, so I will select this composition. Let's go to composition and I will click on add to Adobe Media Encoder Queue. Okay, so let's click on add to Media Encoder Queue, which will basically open up my media encoder. So I hope to see you all in the next chapter where we'll be learning more about Adobe After Effects itself. Okay, there are different things. Once we are moving deeper into our classes, we'll be learning more about few of the technical things which will actually enhance your skill in After Effects. So once you're done, I will just click on to start the queue by clicking enter or by clicking over here. So yeah, I hope to see you all in the next chapter. So take care and goodbye, everyone. Is come here, click on new project. And over here, you guys can see I do have my workspace. Let's move this thing this far a little bit. And now the first thing, what you're going to do is you are going to create a composition. Okay. So to create a composition, let's come here into this project panel. Let's click on this composition. And over here, I will name this one as comp1 itself. And also for preset, I will come here and let's go to the presets Let's take 1920 into 1080, which is 25 frames per second. I will lock the aspect ratio over here. And for the background color, what I'll do is I will just come here and I will just select any dark color, and I will just take it maybe 15 seconds. Okay. So let's come here. Let's give it a 15 seconds mark. And now I will just click on OK, which will basically create me a composition. Okay, so let's come here. Let's click on to the fit option. And over here now I do have my composition, but I'm not able to see my composition because it is the same color. Okay, again, if you do want to edit, okay, you guys can come here. And from here, you guys can actually go to composition settings. Let's come here. Let's select up a different color. Let's say white only. I'll click on OK and OK over here as well. Okay, so let's place this one somewhat over here. Let's bring this one down. And once you have this composition number one, now the next thing what I want to do is I want to import my illustration files. Okay, so there are different ways of how you will be able to import the illustration file. So the first thing, just right click on your mouse. And after that, from here, you guys can go to import. And from import, you guys can come here and just select the file option. Okay. And over here, you guys can see I do have this particular thing. And let's take this illustration file. Then here they'll ask that how do I want to import? Do I want to import is as a footage, or do I want to import this one as a composition? So well, as I do have already imported or have made a composition, so I want to import this one as a footage. Okay. And over here, you guys can see the sequence options. Okay. And also the import options. Let's click over here onto imports. And over here, they're asking me, how do I want to take this image? So let's come here. If I just click on this composition and over here into the footage dimensions, if I come here, let's take document size. And here you guys can see that now under this particular layer, I do have this particular design. Okay. So if I come here and let's say again, if I come and let's say I will just delete this one. Okay. So I will come here, delete this composition. Let's come onto this layer and delete this composition as well. Okay. So again, I will show you guys the other way as well. Let's go to import. Let's click onto the file. Let's take this. I will click on import. And over here, now instead of importing, I will come here and I will import it as a footage. Okay. So I will just import this one as a footage. And if you do want to choose layer individually, you guys can come here and you guys can actually choose layer. And let's say I want to merge layers. Let's click on OK. And here you guys can see that I do have this illustration file. Let's come here, comp one, and I will select this particular part. And here you guys can see I do have imported my illustration. Okay. So over here, as you guys can see, once I am zooming in, you guys can see the quality of this particular vector doesn't look that great. But over here, if you just click on shift, this is how you guys can increase the size. Okay. So you guys can increase the size, and also the quality is quite bad because in my preview option, I do have put on quarter. Okay, so let's come here. If I just click on full, this is how it looks. But now also you guys can see it doesn't look that great. So there is a feature in After Effects for vector graphics. If you're working with any kind of vector graphics, make sure to on this thing to get a better preview. Okay, so over here into this layers option, you guys can see on top, I do have a lot of options. Here you guys can see I do have this for comp option. You guys can see I do have the quality and sampling. Okay, so from here, what I need to do is I need to come here for comp layer option. And if I just tick this one up, you guys can see the changes over here in my illustration. If I turn it back off again, here you guys can see the quality is basically done. And if I turn it on, you guys can see the quality improves to a very good extent. Let's come here. Let's place it over here on half, only just for preview. Okay, so it won't affect anything for you. So let's come over here. Let's click on Control minus, and again using this particular key, let's select this one, and now let's click on shift. So if I come here, let's just click on shift, and now I can just increase the size over here. Okay, so now let's select this, control minus, and over here with the same file, if I do want to make any changes, okay, so for that, what I'm going to do is I am going to come here in my Illustrator. So let's open my Illustrator file over here. Let's come here and let's open up my Illustrator. Okay, so I will wait for it to get opened. So it's not that you guys have to know about Illustrator, but sometimes what happens is if you know Illustrator, it's quite easy and handy for you to use After Effects. It's not mandate that you need to know only, but if you know, you are going to be a better designer, a better motion graphic artist than the one who don't know. Okay, so you guys can turn and you guys can actually use that part as well. Let's go and click on done. And from here now, let's open up a file. Okay, so I will come here. Let's go to my desktop. And from here, let's go to resource file. Let's open this particular thing up. So I will just click on to open option right over here. And now if I just click, let's say I will just come here, and if I do want to ungroup, I can come here, click on to this ungroup option. Let's select outside. Let's come here and let's delete this one. And also let's come here and let's delete this part as well. Okay. So I do have made some changes, and the same way now using this, what I'll do is I will just try to create up an ellipse. So let's say I will just click on shift, and what I'm going to do is I am going to make out a circle quite like this. So now let's come here and let's place this one over here. And again, I will just increase the size. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it over here in the center. And now let's turn this one. And what I can do is I can just move this one up a little bit as well. Okay, so let's move this one up, and also I can increase the stroke size. Let's come here. Let's increase the stroke size from here. And once you are done, you guys can come here into the file option. And from here, make sure to click on save. Okay, so over here, you guys can see I do have this particular option as well. Okay, and I will just click on OK over here. So once I'm done, I will come here in my After Effects, and here also you guys can see the file which I do have imported or changed in Illustrator. It is being changed over here in my After Effects as well. Okay, so this is how you guys can combine both of this application and work quite smoothly. Okay, so this is about the logo. Okay, if I come here, if I do want to make more changes, you guys can come here and make more changes as well. So now let's close this thing down and make sure to save your file. Okay, so let's close down my Illustrator and let's jump straight into After Effects. Okay, so once I do have this vector graphic, make sure to on this particular icon. Okay, and once you're done with that, let's transform this one. Okay, so for transformation, let's come here. Let's just zoom out, and you guys can just first scale it up. Let's say I will just click on shift, and now first I will just scale it up over here. And if you do want to move it, you guys can come here and you guys can just move it right over here as well. Let's select this particular part, and now let's drag and drop this one, and let's go to the transformation option, and I'm going to now transform this particular logo which I have over here on my screen. Okay, so for that, what I'm going to do is first thing first, I am going to change the positioning. And here is the x-axis first, and after that, here I do have my y-axis. Let's come here and let's change the x-axis itself. So let's come here, let's put my x-axis maybe till into this particular place. Okay, so once I have put it over here into this particular place, let's keep on adding up a keyframe. Okay, so I do have added a keyframe. Now again, let's select this one. Let's try to move, and I will just click on shift, which will basically give me a better option. So let's come here. I will just add up a keyframe right over here. Okay, let's come here. Let's delete this keyframe. And yeah, I did a mistake over here, which is I didn't put my playhead at the starting. Okay, so make sure that you guys don't do the same thing the way I was doing. Okay, so let's come here again. Now I'm going to do it in the right way. Okay, So now again, let's bring my playhead at the starting. And now I need to make sure that I do click onto the keyframe option in position. Let's say when my keyframe is over here into this 3 second mark. Okay, so not exactly. And now I do have it here in the 3 seconds mark. Or let's say I want to just have only 1 or 2 seconds gap. So I will just come here and let's place exactly at 2 seconds. And now I will just select this one. And what I'm going to do is I will just click on shift and I want to move this one exactly over here in the center. Okay, so as you guys can see, now it is moving over here in the exact center. If I just play this thing, this is how it will basically move in. Okay, so now over here also, if you do want to scale it down, let's come over here into this particular position. And what you're going to do is you are going to add another keyframe over here in scale option as well. So I'll just add up another keyframe over here in the scaling option. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right over here into this exact point. And over here now I am going to decrease the scale. Okay, let's say I want to make it up a 0. Okay, so let's come here and let's just decrease it. Let's come here and I will just decrease it quite like this. So now let's see a preview of how it actually looks. This is how it will appear and this is how it will just disappear as well. Okay, so this was about how you will be able to work with any Illustrator file. Okay, so if you do have multiple layers, okay, you guys can come here, go to import and go to file. And over here, let's say I do have taken this Illustrator file. And let's say my Illustrator file contains of different layers. Okay, so I do have more than one layer. So I will come here and I can import this one as a composition and I need to select written layer sizes. But if I come here, let's click on footage. If I click on import, I do have this option as well. Let's click on to footage and over here, I can just choose layer and instead of document size, I can just select layer size and I can just click on OK. And if I do have more than one layer, it will be created accordingly. Okay. So now let's select all of this keyframe and you guys can just right click and from here, let's go to keyframe assistant. And now I will just select the ease option. Okay. So you guys can come here. Let's say I will just select both of these keyframes. I will just move this one a bit over here. Let's select this keyframe. Let's move this one a bit over here as well. So now let's just play this thing up and this is how it will disappear. And now again, if you want to create any loop, okay, you guys will be able to create a basic loop over here. I will show you just by copy and paste. Okay, so let's come here into this particular point. Otherwise, if you just click on shift, you guys can see it will directly snap onto the keyframes. Okay, so here you guys can see it's just snapping over here on the keyframes. I can just select all of these keyframes, click on Control C, and over here you guys can just click on Control V over here. Okay, so you guys can come here, click on Control V. Okay, otherwise let's select all of this and now let's click right over here. Otherwise, let's go to edit and from here you guys can click on copy. And after that, let's come here, let's go to edit and over here you guys can just paste it as well. Let's select all of this, let's go to edit and over here now I'll copy and again I will just go to edit and I will just click on paste and here this basic things are being pasted as well. So I will just move this thing again right over here. Okay, so I will just move it right over here. And again, what I'll do is I will just select all of this keyframe. And again, let's go to the edit option. Let's click on copy and let's move my playhead right over here. And again, I will just go to edit and let's click on paste over here. And again, once you're done, you guys can select all of this. Let's go to the edit option. Let's click on copy. And now let's move my playhead right over here. And now let's go to edit and let's click on control and paste. Okay, so now let's see a preview of this one for 15 seconds. Let's come here. You guys can see I will just paste this thing up. And here you guys can see how it appears and how it basically goes out of my screen. Okay, so you guys can just play this thing in a continuous loop. You guys can see it will keep on playing in a continuous loop. Okay, so this is how it will appear on the screen, and this is how it will basically go out of the screen as well. Okay, so let's say over here, you don't know how to work with Illustrator, but you want to work with vector file. Okay, so you guys can get Illustrator files. There are different websites. Let me show you about one. Okay, so for that, let's come to my Chrome over here. Let's come to my account, and from here, let's search for free pick. Okay, so here you guys can see this is the free pick page, which is www.freepick.com. And if you come here in free pick, over here you guys will be able to get different type of vectors. Okay, so for that, how you want to search, let's come here and let's search for logos or graphics. So I will come here, let's search for graphics, and if I just click on enter, you guys can see that over here I do have different type of graphics. And onto the left hand side under filter option, I need to make sure that I go into the file type and I choose the AI file, which is the Adobe Illustrator file. Okay, so I will come here, select the AI file, and all the files which are available over here on my screen are basically AI files or Adobe Illustrator files. And from there also, if you want to segregate which one is free for you to use, you guys can come here and segregate accordingly. And if you just click on any of this vector, you guys can see what are the file size available. Here you guys can see the Illustrator file, the EPS, the JPEG, and also the SVG file is available. If you do want to download it, you guys can come here, click on download, and it will get downloaded easily. So if you want to come down, only if you want to select the AI file, you guys can see the total size. But if you directly click on free download, it will download all of this format into a zip file. But for me, I don't want the whole thing. Let's just click on AI file. Okay, and it will be downloaded accordingly right over here. So yeah, I hope you guys do have understood this class on how you will be able to work with vector graphics, how you will be able to loop your animation. So in next class, we'll be learning more about After Effects in detail. So see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone. So over here on my screen, as you guys can see, now I'm here in the workspace of the After Effects. So the first thing what you're going to do is you are going to come right over here and you are going to create up a composition. So let's come here, let's right click, let's click on new composition. Let's name this one as comp1. I will keep this preset as 1920 into 1080, which is 25 frames per second. Let me keep a white background over here, or let's say, let's take a dark background. Okay, so let's click on OK over here. And now I will just click on OK. And here you guys can see that I do have my composition right over here. Let me just fit it. Okay, let's click on fit option. And this is how it basically looks. So now what I want to do is now I want to bring up a vector which we have worked before. Okay, in last class I have showed you that how you will be able to work with vector graphic, but I do have created a small icon. Okay, just using a rectangle and also using a circle in Illustrator, and I have divided that in two separate layers. Okay, so now what I will do is I will just import that particular file and show you that individually how you will be able to bring those layers out. What are the usage if you actually use pre-comp? Okay, so in simple words, pre-comp is nothing, but once you have multiple layers, okay, more than one layer, if you want to group those things all together, you guys can use the pre-comp option. So for that, now let's right click, and from here let's go to import, and from import let's go to file, and now let's come down here. You guys can see I do have this one as icon, and now I will just click on import. In this particular case, I will make sure that I import this one over here as a composition, and also under the footage dimension I will select it as the layer size. Okay, so once I click on OK right over here, you guys can see that I do have this particular layers. So let's go to comp 1, and under comp 1, you guys can see now I do have both of these separate layers. Okay, so let's first come here. Let's put this one under comp 1, and also let's take this layer 2. Let's put it just on top of layer 1. Okay, so as you guys can see, both of these things are basically individual layers. Okay, so now here you guys can see, if you do want to move, okay, you guys can come here and you do have to move all of these things individually. Let's say if I do want to move it over here on one side, I can come here, and again I do have to move it over here into this particular side as well. Okay, so if I want to actually group both of these thing up, and I want to actually animate both of these thing all together, in that case, again what I'll do is, as this is a vector, I need to make sure that I turn on this vector option, and now I will just select this layer. Let's click on shift, and let's select this other layer as well. Okay, so once I have selected this one, let's right click. Then after right click, here you guys can see you guys do have this pre-composition option. So once I click on this pre-composition option, here you guys can see you guys can actually have this new pre-compose. Okay, and here I will just change its name to icon. Okay, so I will name this one as icon, and now let's click this one as OK. So now you are not able to see both of this layer all together. Okay, so if you just double click onto this one, now you're able to see both of these layers individually. If you do want to work individually, you guys can come here and work individually. And if you do want to work with the same layer, here you guys can see on top, I do have the comp 1 layer right over here again. Okay, and also you guys can see the change in the color as well. Okay, let's come here. Let's close down the icon option. And if I do want to transform it now, I can come here and I can transform it right from here. Okay, so for that, the first thing what I need to do is, let's come here and let's select this whole thing. Okay, so let's come here. Let's just select this thing up. And what you're going to do is, if you don't want to give this one up a rotation, let's select the rotate tool, and over here, you guys can see that you will be able to give this thing up a rotation. Okay, so let's come here. Let's move this thing down. Let's take my selection tool, and from here, let's try to move this thing down over here. And what I'm going to do is, I am going to scale this one up as well. Okay, so let's come here. Let's go to transform, and from here now, let's scale this thing down. Okay, so I will come here and I will just come here and let's place it right over here at first into this particular corner. And what I'm going to do is, I am going to click on to this keyframe. Okay, so I will just add one keyframe right over here. And after that, I will just place it, and I will just increase the size here at some point. Okay, so let's come here and let's just move this one up. Okay, let's come here and I will also select the position option. Okay, so let's come here and let's just put out the position option here as well. And now once I'm here in the tool mark option, let's just move this thing up. Okay, you guys can see I can just move this thing up, and now I will just increase the size. Let's come on to the scale option. And what I can do is, I can just increase the scale over here. And now let's place it right over here. Okay, as you guys can see, this is how I can just place this thing. And again, I will just keep it right over here. And now I will just add another keyframe of scaling. Let's click on keyframe right over here. And now what I'll do is, I will just decrease the size a little bit again. Okay, so let's come here. Let's move this thing one up. Okay, and let's place it right over here. And let's scale this thing down a little bit. Okay, so let's come here. Let's scale this thing up a little bit. And if you do want to change up the position, you guys can come here. And this is how you guys can see I will be able to change up the position over here as well. Okay, and also if I just come here onto this 6th mark, let's change the position over here as well. Okay, So here you guys can see this is how I will be able to change the position. And now if you just take up a look how it actually looks, here you guys can see this is how it will basically move over here on my screen. Okay, so once I have put all of these effects, now if you want to maintain all of this mark, let's say once I click over here, okay, you guys can see I will be able to change these marks out. Okay, so I can come here and let's say if I do want to change it, and now let's just with my wheel, I will come here and I will just decrease the size basically from here. And the same way what I can do is I can come here and I can just place this one over here as well. Okay, so let's place it right over here and let's click on this keyframes. Okay, let's say I will just click on Control Z again, and over here, now what I'll do is I will just click on position. And now if you do want me to play this one, let's come here and this is how it will basically appear on the screen. And also it will just basically appear over here on top. Okay, so if you do want to create this particular path, if you do want to arrange this path, you guys can come here and you guys can arrange all of this path as well. So now let's come here to make you guys understand in a better way. Let's delete all of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this part as well. And now let's select both of this layer. Let's select and let's drag both of these layers down. Let's put the layer 2 on top of my layer 1. Now let's select using shift. And what I'm going to do is I am going to make it a pre-comp. Let's come here, pre-comp. Let's click on OK over here. Okay, and once I do have selected this particular layer, what I'm going to do is individually, if you want me to change anything, okay, to show you guys about the path. So for that, I will select this one. Let's click on delete. Now I am only left with this particular thing. Let's say now first I will just place it right over here. And also now let's scale it down. Let's go to transform. And from here, let's scale this one down to somewhere around 50. Okay. And also if you want me to give this one up a rotation, I can come here and I can just give this thing up a rotation right over here itself. So now let's place it over here in one particular corner. And now let's add up a position. Let's bring my playhead over here in the starting. Let's click on to the keyframe of positioning. And now let's move this thing up right over here. Okay, so now let's place it right over here. Let's go to this one half-second mark. And now if I do want to move, I can come here and I can basically move this thing right over here itself. And again, let's come to this 2-second mark over here. And again, I will just move this one over here on top again. And now what I'll do is let's come to this particular point over here and let's move this one over to this particular point as well. Okay, so here now again what I can do is I will come here and I will just scale this thing up as well. Okay, so over onto this particular point, if you do want me to increase the size, you guys can actually increase the size from here as well. Okay, so if I just come to this particular part and let's say I will just click on 50 and let's click on enter. And now if you want me to play here, you guys can see eventually the size basically increases. And now if I just click onto any of this part over here, then let's zoom in using Control Plus. Okay, let's come here, let's select this one. And over here now, let's click on Control Plus. And now let's just move it around. And what you can do is let's just select these lines. If you do want to work on with these handles, you guys can come here and you guys can work on with all these handles over here. Okay, so let's move this one up over here. Let's move this one up over here as well. And this is how it basically works. So here you guys can actually select at what path you want it to move. So now over here, again, let's bring my playhead to show you guys how it actually moves along the path. Here you guys can see. Now this is how it basically moves along the path. And over here, I have already told you that you guys will be able to manipulate this one. Let's come down over here into this particular place. And what you can do is you guys can also decrease the size as well. Okay, so I will just decrease the size to 0 over here. Now let's bring my playhead. Let's just play this thing up over here. This is how it will just disappear. Okay, so this is how it actually works. Let's come here. Let's see all these keyframes over here. And once I'm done with this particular part, what I'm going to do is, if you do want to orient this, you guys can come here. Let's go to the layer option. And from layer, you need to go over here into the transform option. And under transform, you guys can see I do have the particular option known as auto orient. Okay, so I will also click on orient along path. So I will come here, I will just orient along path. Let's click OK. And over here, you guys can see it is basically orienting along the path. Okay, so this middle part, it is just moving along the middle part over here as well. Okay, so before it was not that uniform, but now if you just play this one, let's just come here and using this particular option, let's play this thing. And now the movement is quite uniform. Okay, so yeah, I hope you guys do have understood this particular chapter on how you will be able to create up a pre-comp. Let's say you do have 2 layers or you do have 100 layers. You guys can actually make out a pre-comp from that. Okay, so let's come and close this thing down. If I just double click here, you guys can see I do have my pre-comp right over here. If you do want to add more layers, you guys can come here, add more layers, and you will be able to create up a pre-comp as well. Okay, so if you just come here and I will just take my layer 1, let's place my layer 1 over here again. Let's select both of this. Let's come here. And now if you do want me to give this one upper rotation as well, let's take the rotate tool and now let's give this one upper rotation. And now let's decrease the size as well. Okay, so I will come here and I will just scale this thing down. Let's go to transform, and from here, now let's scale this one down, and let's move this one using my selection tool. Let's come here, and this is how you guys can actually move this thing apart. Okay, and now using shift, let's select both of this, right click and go to pre-compose, and I will just click on OK, and I do have this pre-compose layer over here on my screen. Okay, so yeah, I hope to see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone.
Over here, as you guys can see, now I'm here in the workspace of the Adobe After Effects. So the first thing what you're going to do over here is you are going to import your media. Let's right click onto your mouse. Let's click on import. And from here, let's select the file option. Okay. And from here, I will take out this particular video and let's import this one. Okay. So I do have imported this particular video. And let's say I want to create a composition out of that. So let's drag this one and let's make a new composition out of this video. And if I want to rename it, let's right click. Let's go to this rename option and let's rename this one as green screen. Okay. So I will come here. Let's name this one as green screen over here. Let's close this thing down. And now what you are going to do is you are going to change up the background. Okay. So for that, what you need to do is you need to come here into your properties panel, and over from the properties panel, you need to select this effects and presets option. If you don't see your effects and presets option over here, what you can do is you guys can go on top of this menu bar and let's go to your windows. And from here, you guys will be able to see the effects and presets. Otherwise, they do have a shortcut key as well. Well, I didn't knew that. Okay. So it's Control+5 from your keyboard. Otherwise, if you are using a Mac, it's Command+5 from your keyboard as well. So now let's go here into the effects and presets. And under this search option, I am going to search about keying. Okay, so let's search about keying over here. Okay. And now let's again come here and I will just come over here. And under this keying option, you guys can see I do have this particular key known as the key light. Okay. Here you guys can see key light 1, 2. And what I can do is I can come up over here and I can just apply it over here in my screen. Let's just drag and drop. And now at first you guys are not able to see any kind of changes over here. Okay. So if you do want to see any kind of changes directly, let's take my eyedropper tool. And from here, let's take out this particular color. Okay, so if you guys zoom in here, you guys can see the feather, and my video over here is cut quite well. Okay, if you guys can check over here, my video is being cut quite well. Okay, so let's say sometimes what happens is your background is not removed quite properly. Okay, so in that case, the most useful option, which is being used by most of the people, is this option known as the screen matte. Okay, so if I just come here, you guys can see you will be able to adjust the black, the white. If you do want to have any softness, if you want to give up any outline, okay, which is known as the screen shrink or grow. And also here you do have the despo black, and also here you do have the despo white as well. Okay, so from here, let's say if I just come here, and if I just keep the clip black to 100%, I am not able to see anything. So let's keep it as 0. And now over here, the same way, if I just turn this off, maybe around to 0%, you guys can see the changes as well. Okay, if I just come here, and let's say if I just keep it something around 10, or if I just keep something around 1, here you guys can see this one doesn't look that great. Okay, and also they're asking me that how do I want to view this? Okay, do I want to view it directly from the source? Do I want to view it outside mask? Or do I want to view it in the source alpha? Okay, so I will come here, and once I am done, I will just click here. Let's just increase the sleep white. And also you guys can see I do have the clip rollback option as well. Okay, so if you do want me to increase it, here you guys can see now this one looks a bit smoother. Okay, so I can just increase this one over here. And also, let's say over here, you want to give any kind of outline towards the subject which you do have selected. You guys can come here and you guys can increase this particular line. Okay, let's say, let's come over here. And if you do want to increase it, you guys can come here and you guys can increase it as well. Let's give it a number of 5. And over here, into this particular stroke, if I do want to give out any softness, you guys can come here and let's give this up a softness of 5. Okay, so again, let's come here. Let's give this one up a 5 over here as well. And if you do want to work with the depot black, you guys can come here. You guys can work on with the blacks. Let's put it around 20. And also in depot white, you guys can come here and let's say I will just put up around 5 over here as well. Okay, so here you guys can see how it actually looks. Okay, so if I come here and without this, this is how it looks. And with the key light option, this is how it actually looks. Now, once you're done, if you want to put up any kind of screen blur, you guys can come here and you guys can just increase the blur directly from here as well. And also, if you do want to change up the color over here, you guys can come here and if you just click on OK, you guys can see the color over here. Okay, let's come here. And if you do want to change up the color as well, let's go on white. And now I will just change the color over here as well. Okay, so if you want to do any color correction in the foreground, you guys can do it from here. And also if you do want to color the edges, or if you do want to color correct the edges, you guys can come here and you guys will be able to do that thing from here itself. Okay, so I hope you guys do have understood this particular part, what all you need to change once you have applied the key light option. So let's say once you're done over here by putting each and every options, and now you don't want this, okay? Otherwise you want it, but you want to reset all the settings and you want to start it from the beginning. So in that case here, you guys can see this reset option, which you could just click once and everything over here present into the key light option will be again back at normal. Okay, so over here, you guys can also do that. And before that, what I'm going to do is I will come here. Let's close this thing down. And now again, I will just click onto this icon. Let's click on project. Let's right click. Let's go to import and let's go to import file over here. And from here, I will take this particular background and let's click on import. Okay. And this one is also being imported. And now let's come here. Let's drag and drop this one down. Okay. And now you guys can see I do have a different background. Okay. So over here now, let's play this thing up. Okay. Using my shift. This is how it basically looks. You guys can see the tracking also looks quite nice and quite smoother. And this is how it will basically work. And also a slight movement on the background as well. Let's come here. Let's decrease it to quarter for the preview over here. Okay, as I don't get much pressure in my PC. Now let's click on shift. Let's close this thing down as well. And again, what I'm going to do now over here is let's come here. Let's change the background color a little bit. So again, for that, let's go to effects and presets. And from here under this search bar, what I'm going to do is I am going to type hue. Okay. And under color correction, you guys can see I do have the hue and saturation option. So I'll just select this one and maybe I will just put it over here onto the background. Okay. And now if I do want to change up any color, okay, I can come here and I can basically change up the color of the background as well. Let's give out this particular color. I can just select the saturation. Let's go with something dark. And also I will come here and I will just darken this a little bit as well. Okay, so I will just turn on the master. Okay, and once I'm done, let's come here and let's play this thing up. Okay, and here you guys can see with this red background, it is being played as well. Okay, so now if I just turn it off, this is how it used to look before. And with hue and saturation, this is how it used to look. Okay, so once I'm done with this part, let's click on shift. Let's come here and let's save this file. Okay, so for that, again, what I'll do is I will just go to file. And from here, let's go to export. And I will just add this one into my media encoder queue. Let's click on add to media encoder. Okay. And I will just render my file down. And also I will save this After Effects working file as well. Okay. So here you guys can see my media encoder is now being opened. Okay. If you do want to close it down as well, you guys can come here and close it down as well. Let's check. And now, as you guys can see, I already do have this vertical option. Let's select this output file. And what you're going to do is you're going to go to desktop. Let's go to my resource file and let's save it right over here. And now I will start rendering. So yeah, I hope you guys do have understood this class on how you will be able to work on with the green screen. So see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone. So over here, as you guys can see that I'm here in the home page of the Adobe After Effects. Okay. So the first thing what you're going to do over here is you are going to create up a new project. Okay. So to create up a new project, or let's say you want to create up a new composition. So we do have already a project. So I will come here and there are different ways of how you will be able to create up a new composition. Okay. So let's come right over here. And now let's name this as comp1. And what I'm going to do now is come here and let's change the name. Okay, so let's name this one as basic masking. And I'll make sure that I do have the preset as 9020 to 1080 and which is 25 FPS. Okay, and also I will just decrease the duration from 15 to 10. And also I can select what kind of background color do I need. Okay, and I will now click on OK. As you guys can see, right now I do have this particular background. Okay, but let's say if I import this one, or once I am done, if I export this particular thing, what will happen is I will have this black color background itself. Let's say if I just choose a different color over here, I want a white background. In that particular case, what I need to do is I need to come here and over here. Again, what I need to do is I need to come here in my menu bar. Okay, so from my menu bar, let's go here into the layers option. Let's come here, basic masking. Let's go to this layer option. Now let's come here and I want to put out this right over here, and I just want to create up a new layer. Okay, so I want to come here, and if you do want to come to this layer option, you guys can basically create up a new layer. Okay, so again, I want to actually type things out. Okay, now over here, let's try to add upper text. Okay, so I will come here, take my type tool, and I'm going to just click on top right over here. Okay, so let me type hello everyone. Okay, so I will just come here. Let's type hello. Let's type everyone over here. And now what I'm going to do now is I am going to select this whole thing out and I'm going to change the fill color. Let's say for the fill color, I want white over here, and I'll just click on OK. And I need to work on with this text. Let's come here. Let's take my selection tool, and I will just turn off my caps. Otherwise, you will have an error like this. So then let's select this one. Okay, this particular text. Let's select this particular box, and now I'd want to increase the size. Okay, let's come here. Let's just try to increase the size over here. Let's come to this part. Let's increase the size from this end as well. Okay, so I will just try to come here and I will just try to increase the size from this corner. Let's click on Shift and now let's select this. Let's come here. And you guys can just increase the size of the text using this arrow as well. Okay, sometimes you guys can see that it might distort. Okay, so just keep it right over here. If you do want to increase it, you guys can come here and increase the size from this particular corner as well. Okay. And now if you do want to increase the resolution, you guys can come here and you guys can increase the resolution of this particular thing over here. So now again, let's go to this layer, and from layer, I am going to go to new, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a solid layer. Okay, so let's come here, let's name this one as background. Okay, so I will come here, I will just name this one as the background over here. And now you need to make sure that the units is fine, the aspect ratio is okay, and make sure to change up the color the way you want. Okay, let's come here, let's go with a dark red color. And now what I can do is I will just click on OK, and I will just click OK over here as well. Okay, so in that case now I am going to put this text on top of my background layer. Okay, so let's come here, let's place it on top of this background layer. Now let's select this text, and if you do want to align it over here in the center, let's click on align. And what I'm going to do is I am going to align it horizontally over here in the center, and vertically also I will align it over here in the center. Okay, so yeah, I hope you guys do have understood this part of how you will be able to actually work with this one. But now, let's say what I want to do is I want to use the masking option. Okay, so there are different ways of how you will be able to mask, but I'll be showing you guys the simplest way of masking over here. Let's say I want to mask this text layer over here. Okay, so for that, what I'm going to do now is I am going to come here, select my text layer, and while my text layer is selected, I will come here and I will just go and select my rectangle tool. Okay, and once I do have selected, you guys can see there is a particular sign over here on my screen. So now if I try to create a pen rectangle over here, as you guys can see, I will just come here, I will just create a pen rectangle. And now again, let's take my selection tool from here. And now if I just come here and if I just move this thing, you guys can see my mask is basically moving. So if I do want to decrease the size of the mask, I can come here, then I can increase the size of my mask. Okay, so if you do want to come down here, you guys can see under this text layer, now under the mask, I do have the mask 1. Okay, so let's come here, let's put this on top over a little bit. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to work on with the mask path. Okay, so if you do want to work on with the mask path, what you guys can do is you guys can come here and let's say for now I want to turn this mask path over here. And once I am coming over to this 1 second mark, what I'll do is I will just change this one from here. Okay, so if you do want me to change the mask shape, I will come here and I will just select both of these sides. And if you do want me to change it, you guys can come here and I will just click on Shift and I will just change it quite like this. Okay, so once it comes over here, I want it to stop. So let's see how it actually looks. So this is how it will basically appear over here on my screen. Okay, so individually, sometimes what you guys can do is, let's say I want to delete this part. Okay, so let's say I will come here and I will just delete this one. And now I will just select both of this side. Okay, and now let's place it right over here. Let's select the mask path. Let's select both of this using Shift. Okay, and let's move this one right somewhere over here. And once I do have selected both of this, I will just click on Shift. And here at this particular point, I will add one text or one keyframe. And over here into this 1 second mark, also I will add another keyframe. Okay, so let's select this one. Let's click on Shift. Let's select this one as well. And now let's select over here. Let's click on Shift. And again, I will just come over here and this is how it will appear. So now I do have these 3 keyframes. Let's play this one. And this is how it actually looks. Okay, so this was about the basic masking option of how you will be able to use. Okay. And yeah, I hope you guys do have understood this class on how you will be able to do some basic masking. So in next class over here, we will be learning about if you do have your top object and your mask and you want to animate those separately, how you will be able to do that. So see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone.
So over here on my screen, as you guys can see, now I'm here in basically the workspace of After Effects. So the first thing, now I am going to create a composition. Okay, let's come here. Let's click on composition over here. And what I'm going to do is I will come right over here. Let's name this one as comp1. So now again, let's check the timing and also the background color. Okay, so for that, what I'm going to do now is let's take up a background color of white. And now let's click on OK and OK from here as well. And over here now, let's fit this over into my frame. Okay, so I will just click on fit right over here. And now if you do want to bring any kind of logos, you guys can also bring any kind of logos as well. Okay, so the logo which I do have used in my other class, I can also bring the same thing right over here itself. Okay, so let's come right over here. And what you guys can do is you guys can come here and let's go to import. Let's go to file. And from the file option, let's take this particular logo. And now I am going to import this one. Okay, so I need to make sure that I import this one as a composition over here. Okay, let's take it as a composition and also as a layer size. So I'll just click on OK. And now as you guys can see, under this layer, I do have this design as well, but here I do have only one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here. I'm going to take this particular logo. And if you do want to increase the size, you guys can come here, click on this. Let's select this one. Let's click on shift. And if you do want to increase the size, I will increase the size as well. And you guys already know that if you're working with vector, how you guys will be able to work with that. Let's come here into this layer. Let's turn it back on. And here you guys can see this one looks quite better. Now let's come here. Let's select this. Let's increase the size. Let's click on shift and I will just increase the size quite like this. And now if I do want to create a layer, okay, how I will be able to do that? So in last class, I haven't showed you that once you select this one, you guys need to select any kind of shapes and you will be able to create the mask over here. But now I'm not going to do by selecting this one, but instead what I'll do is I will come here. I will not select any of this layer. Make sure of that. Okay. And now I am going to come here and I am going to make out a mask. Okay. So for that, I will just come over here and I need to just left click and let's take this ellipse tool and make sure to click on shift to get a white circle. Now let's come here. Let's take my selection tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it right over here on top. Okay. So I'm going to place this thing right over here on top. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to come over here and I am going to name this one. Okay. So if you want me to name this one, okay, I will just come here and I can just create a new mask directly out of that. Okay. So if you do want to create up a new mask, you guys can come here and you guys do have the masking option as well. But instead, what I'll do is I will just add up a cracked matte. Okay. So in that case, now let's right click over here and let's try to view this one. As you guys can see, this is the comp one. Here you guys can see I do have all these other options as well. And if you do want to link this one, you guys can come here and you guys can link this one to this design, which I do have over here. Okay, if I don't want to link this one as well, I will just click on none into this particular place. And now over here, before working with this shape layer, I can come here and let's delete this one. Let's position this thing. Okay, so let's come here. Let's take this shape layer. Let's click on delete. I will come here into this particular design and let's drag and drop this thing down. Let's go to transform option. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to position it properly. Okay, so for that, now let's come here. Let's bring my playhead at the beginning. And now let's click on the keyframe animation over here at the start. And here during this 1 second mark, I am going to position it outside. Let's say let's come over here. Let's select this one, and what you guys can do is just move this one outside. Let's click on shift. So I will just move this thing outside right over here. And after 1 second, okay, so once I'm over here into the 1 second mark, let's select this one. Okay, and now I will just move this thing. Let's click on shift, and I want to move this thing exactly here in the center of my screen. Okay, so let's come over here. And again, now let's move this thing up using shift exactly over here in the center. And if you do want to decrease the size, let's bring it a bit down. Okay, so you guys can come here and you guys can bring this one a bit down as well. So now let's see the animation of how it actually looks. Let's just play. And this is how it actually looks. Okay. And now we can work on with the masking part. Okay, so for that, now what I'm going to do is I am going to exactly come over here, and I will make sure that I'm not selecting any layer. Okay, so I won't select any layer over here. Let's take this shape tool. Okay, and now using shift, otherwise without shift I will come here and I will just select this particular path. Let's come here, and if you do want to position it exactly, make sure to position it exactly right over here. Okay, so once you are done positioning, okay, you guys can see how it actually moves on. But now I want to use this layer as a mask. Okay, so in that particular case, what you're going to do is let's come here, and I'm going to use this as a mask. So for that, I need to shake, or I need to select this particular shape layer, and what I need to do is I need to come here, and here you guys can see a small option known as the switches, transfer controls menu. So I will come here and I will just click on this toggle switches, and here now I will just come to this particular layer, and under this matte option, I will come here and I will just select this layer 1. Okay, so I will just select this particular layer 1, and if I just play this thing up, here you guys can see how it basically appears over here on my screen. Okay, so it basically appears from this particular place. Okay, so let's come here, and it actually generates from this over here. As you guys can see, it is generating this particular logo from this particular end. So if you guys want to play this thing around, you guys can come here, and after staying a bit over here, what you can also do is once you are done, okay, with this masking, you guys can move this layer outside as well. Okay, so for that, again, what I need to do is I need to come here, go to this positioning layer, and now let's select another keyframe. Okay, so I will just add another keyframe over here. And now once I am over here into the 2 seconds mark, okay, what I'm going to do is I am going to change the x-axis, and I will just move it exactly outside. Let's come here, let's move this one exactly outside. Okay, let's come here and let's just move it outside over here. Okay, so now if you want me to show you guys an example how it will basically appear, and this is how it will actually go. Okay, so now again, let's come here at this particular point. Let's select this one, let's click on shift, and you guys can actually move out more. Okay, so now let's come here, and you guys can just play this thing up, and this is how it will disappear. Okay, so if you do want to select all of this, and let's come here, and if you do want to copy this one, let's go to edit, let's go to copy, and after that I will just place my playhead over here. Let's click on to edit option again, and over here I will just click on paste. Okay, so now here, let's see the difference. Here, this is how it will go, and again, this is how it will basically appear. Okay, so this is about the animation right over here. I have showed you that individually layer-wise how you will be able to animate. Okay, So now over here, I do have basically animated the object and also the mask separately. Okay, so here you guys can see this particular shape layer of mine now have turned itself into a mask. Okay, and if you do want to work on with other values, you guys can come here and you guys can work with these values just underneath over here as well. Make sure your track mat is on, okay, from the toggle switches and modes, and you guys can change things accordingly. So yeah, I hope you guys to have understood this class on how you will be able to animate object and mask separately. Okay, so see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone.
So over here on my screen, as you guys can see, now I'm here in basically the workspace of After Effects. So the first thing, now I am going to create up a composition. Okay, let's come here, let's click on composition over here. And what I'm going to do is I will come right over here. Let's name this one as comp1. So now again, let's check the timing and also the background color. Okay, so for that, what I'm going to do now is let's take up a background color of white. And now let's click on OK and OK from here as well. And over here now, let's fit this over into my frame. Okay, so I will just click on fit right over here. And now if you do want to bring any kind of logos, you guys can also bring any kind of logos as well. Okay, so the logo which I do have used in my other class, I can also bring the same thing right over here itself. Okay, so let's come right over here. And what you guys can do is you guys can come here and let's go to import. Let's go to file. And from the file option, let's take this particular logo. And now I am going to import this one. Okay, so I need to make sure that I import this one as a composition over here. Okay, let's take it as a composition and also as a layer size. So I'll just click on OK. And now, as you guys can see, under this layer, I do have this design as well. But here I do have only one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here. I'm going to take this particular logo. And if you do want to increase the size, you guys can come here, click on this. Let's select this one. Let's click on shift. And if you do want to increase the size, I will increase the size as well. And you guys already know that if you're working with vector, how you guys will be able to work with that. Let's come here into this layer. Let's turn it back on. And here you guys can see this one looks quite better. Now let's come here, let's select this, let's increase the size, let's click on shift and I will just increase the size quite like this. And now if I do want to create a layer, okay, how I will be able to do that? So in last class I haven't showed you that once you select this one, you guys need to select any kind of shapes and you will be able to create the mask over here. But now I'm not going to do by selecting this one, but instead what I'll do is I will come here, I will not select any of this layer, make sure of that, okay? And now I am going to come here and I am going to make out a mask, okay? So for that, I will just come over here and I need to just left click and let's take this ellipse tool and make sure to click on shift to get a white circle. Now let's come here, let's take my selection tool and what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it right over here on top. Okay, so I'm going to place this thing right over here on top and what I'm going to do now is I am going to come over here and I am going to name this one, okay? So if you want me to name this one, okay, I will just come here and I can just create a new mask directly out of that. Okay, so if you do want to create up a new mask, you guys can come here and you guys do have the masking option as well. But instead, what I'll do is I will just add up a tracked matte. Okay, so in that case, now let's right click over here and let's try to view this one. As you guys can see, this is the comp one. Here you guys can see I do have all these other options as well. And if you do want to link this one, you guys can come here and you guys can link this one to this design, which I do have over here. Okay, if I don't want to link this one as well, I will just click on none into this particular place. And now over here, before working with this shape layer, I can come here and let's delete this one. Let's position this thing. Okay, so let's come here. Let's take this shape layer. Let's click on delete. I will come here into this particular design and let's drag and drop this thing down. Let's go to transform option. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to position it properly. Okay, so for that, now let's come here. Let's bring my playhead at the beginning. And now let's click on the keyframe animation over here at the start. And here during this 1 second mark, I am going to position it outside. Let's say let's come over here. Let's select this one, and what you guys can do is just move this one outside. Let's click on shift. So I will just move this thing outside right over here. And after 1 second, okay, so once I'm over here into the 1 second mark, let's select this one. Okay, and now I will just move this thing. Let's click on shift, and I want to move this thing exactly here in the center of my screen. Okay, so let's come over here. And again, now let's move this thing up using shift exactly over here in the center. And if you do want to decrease the size, let's bring it a bit down. Okay, so you guys can come here and you guys can bring this one a bit down as well. So now let's see the animation of how it actually looks. Let's just play. And this is how it actually looks. Okay. And now we can work on with the masking part. Okay, so for that, now what I'm going to do is I am going to exactly come over here and I will make sure that I'm not selecting any layer. Okay, so I won't select any layer over here. Let's take this shape tool. Okay, and now using shift, otherwise without shift, I will come here and I will just select this particular path. Let's come here, and if you do want to position it exactly, make sure to position it exactly right over here. Okay, so once you are done positioning, okay, you guys can see how it actually moves on. But now I want to use this layer as a mask. Okay, so in that particular case, what you're going to do is let's come here and I'm going to use this as a mask. So for that, I need to shake or I need to select this particular shape layer. And what I need to do is I need to come here and here you guys can see a small option known as the switches, transfer controls menu. So I will come here and I will just click on this toggle switches. And here now I will just come to this particular layer and under this matte option, I will come here and I will just select this layer 1. Okay, so I will just select this particular layer 1, and if I just play this thing up, here you guys can see how it basically appears over here on my screen. Okay, so it basically appears from this particular place. Okay, so let's come here, and it actually generates from this over here. As you guys can see, it is generating this particular logo from this particular end. So if you guys want to play this thing around, you guys can come here and after staying a bit over here, what you can also do is once you are done, okay, with this masking, you guys can move this layer outside as well. Okay, so for that, again, what I need to do is I need to come here, go to this positioning layer, and now let's select another keyframe. Okay, so I will just add another keyframe over here. And now once I am over here into the 2 seconds mark, okay, what I'm going to do is I am going to change the x-axis and I will just move it exactly outside. let's come here. Let's move this one exactly outside. Okay, let's come here and let's just move it outside over here. Okay, so now if you want me to show you guys an example how it will basically appear, and this is how it will actually go. Okay, so now again, let's come here at this particular point. Let's select this one. Let's click on Shift, and you guys can actually move out more. Okay, so now let's come here and you guys can just play this thing up, and this is how it will disappear. Okay, so if you do want to select all of this, and let's come here, and if you do want to copy this on, let's go to Edit, let's go to Copy, and after that I will just place my playhead over here. Let's click on to Edit option again, and over here I will just click on Paste. Okay, so now here, let's see the difference. Here, this is how it will go, and again, this is how it will basically appear. Okay, so this is about the animation right over here. I have showed you that individually layer-wise how you will be able to animate. Okay, so now over here I do have basically animated the object and also the mask separately. Okay, so here you guys can see this particular shape layer of mine now have turned itself into a mask. Okay, and if you do want to work on with other values, you guys can come here and you guys can work with these values just underneath over here as well. Make sure your track matte is on. Okay, from the toggle switches and modes, and you guys can change things accordingly. So yeah, I hope you guys do have understood this class on how you will be able to animate object and mask separately. Okay, so see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone.